You were told to get better as a person, to get better, grow, and change. Maybe one day there will be peace. What if that's not true, though? Peace might not be something you earn, but something you remember. What if you were never really broken? It was told that you should keep getting better and that you should chase happiness like a finish line. But why does your heart still beat fast at night if that worked? Why is your mind always going around, even when there is no sound? Why does it seem like it's never enough, no matter how far you go? Truth be told, peace isn't always perfect. It means giving up. It means giving up the person you think you need to be. Buddhism's old lessons that whisper you're already home are the quiet key. These facts have been used for hundreds of years by monks, sages, and seekers to quiet the mind, soften the heart, and get back to the self beneath all the noise. Don't fix, don't chase, nothing but quiet, clarity, feeling sorry. And tonight is the start of that peace for you. As you listen to these lessons, you will feel something inside ease. Things will become less tense. You will breathe more deeply. Your mind will slow down. You won't feel calm because life is perfect, but because you've given up trying to change it. This isn't just another sound for sleep. This is a welcome home. Are you prepared to return to your own house? Let's start. Now, something changes. You're finally here after years of rushing, pushing, and achieving. Not just in a room, not just sitting down, but right now, inside you. You might not remember the silence. Not somewhere away from the noise, but somewhere under it. This is a place where views, timelines, and shame don't matter. That's where we're going now. Not forward, not coming back. Inside. Peace has been waiting here. There's a place inside you that stays still even when things around you move. A room that stays open when people leave. A room that never says anything, never asks, and never gets loud. That room is quiet. Pasadi is the word for the doorway. We don't hear the word pasadi very often, but it means inner peace, which is one of the most valuable things in Buddhist thought. Not the kind of calm that comes from hot baths and headphones that block out noise, but the kind of peace that stays with you even when bad things happen. Like the water, it doesn't fight the storm, it just sits there under the waves. This inner room isn't made by working hard, it's found by being quiet. It is known, so it doesn't need to be made. It's always been there. Even when your mind was yelling, even when shame was painting your mind's walls, even when everything in life seemed too much and your mind was a mess. That room was always quiet. You stopped coming to see us. This is the gentle return, or pasadi. The act of learning how to be still inside yourself without being scared. How to find peace in being yourself. How to take a deep breath without thinking about it right away. To be here, all the way through, and not feel like something is missing. A lot of people live in other places. They never pay attention to you. Scrolling, by comparing, feeling bad, getting ready. They're not even in their own thoughts or bodies. They live in news stories, records, and memories. But there is no peace there. Being there brings peace. Pasadi shows you the way back. Pasadi is not a goal in Buddhist texts. It is a natural state that comes about when restlessness is let go of. Like how the water in a pond clears up when you stop moving it. There were no breaks in the water. It was just busy. Your mind is the same way. It's not broken. It's full. Too many ideas, way too much noise. There's too much past and near, and it's not enough now. How do you stop moving then? You don't try to stop the thoughts. You can't make people be quiet. You don't try to get away. You take a break. You take deep breaths. You just watch. You change when you just watch your breath and don't try to change it. It starts to feel softer. Inside, the tight spots start to loosen up. The sounds stop being threats to your peace and become a part of it. A car going by, a floor that creaks, the quiet hum of life. Not anything to manage. There's nothing to push away. You don't need to be exciting in this room. You don't need to say anything. You do not need to explain your pain. Your job here isn't to do well or win, it's just to be. That is very uncommon, to just be fully without judging. With pasadi, you can be free in this way. You can accept life instead of running away from it. You might ask, how can I rest when I have so many things to do? The truth is that most of your worries don't exist right now. They live in the past or the future, which you can't change. But this breath, this body, this space, it's okay right now. It might not be perfect. Okay then. Okay is also a way to find peace. Buddha didn't say that people would never feel pain. He said there was a way to find peace in the midst of pain. That road goes through the quiet space inside you. It's not about 10 years of meditation on a mountain. Being an ideal monk is not important. It's about getting back to yourself right now for one moment. To pay attention to the breath. To feel how much you weigh on the chair or bed. To take your weight off. To loosen up your jaw. That you're okay with not having to solve everything. When we don't believe every thought, our pasadi grows. When we stop treating every critical thought inside us like a problem that needs to be solved. When we learn that we don't have to answer everything. Thoughts are sometimes just clouds. Don't chase them, they'll get away. A lot of feelings are just the weather. When you stop calling them your personality, they change. There are no parts in this room, no names given. Have no hopes. You are not the parent, the kid, the worker, the success or the failure. The other people are. You are just being there. A quiet observer, taking note. That's why monks smile when they have nothing. Why hermits live with little and seem happy all the time. They've moved in and made this room their home. They don't need anything to keep them busy. They don't need everyone to praise them. They've found a place that no one else can reach. Being still isn't dull, it's brave. It takes strength to be alone with yourself for a while, to feel everything, to deal with everything. But that's where the change takes place, because you start to hear your truth when you stop trying to avoid it. You'll notice that most people aren't scared of noise. They're scared of how they'll feel without it. However, resistance is what hurts you, not your feelings. They chase you more the faster you run. They can't hurt you if you just sit down and say, I see you. The fear fades, the anger goes away, loneliness turns into kindness. The storm was never meant to hurt you, it was just trying to get your attention. Pasadi isn't a method. There is a link, a close friendship with peace. It takes some time to believe it. Even more so if you've spent your whole life racing, running away, or showing. But that quiet room makes you feel welcome the longer you stay there. And finally, it turns into your safe place. And not just when you're meditating, but in the traffic, in arguments, sadness, getting lost. It teaches you how to carry quiet around with you like a secret light. Peaceful, hold on, always on. The best part? It is yours and no one else can take it, not the situation. Don't fail, not turning down. You have it inside you. You made it. You go back to it. You can have it. This room shows up in every culture in some way. It's called the still center of the turning wheel in Taoism and the peace that surpasses understanding in Christianity. In Buddhism, it's called padi and means the peace that doesn't depend on anything else. Science is also getting better. Scientists studying the brain have found that regular stillness, like mindful breathing, body scanning, and watching without reacting, changes the way the brain works. It lowers the stress chemicals. It makes it easier to control your emotions. It helps you sleep, think clearly, and even feel kindness. In the end, it turns out that being still is not passive, it's healing. But here's the thing, you can't make it happen. You can only let it happen. Crushing doesn't bring peace, it comes from letting go. Let go of the need to be somewhere else. Don't try to change into someone else. Let go of the shame that says taking a break is lazy. Put the stories out there that say peace is for other people. You're welcome to be here. You can take a deep breath. You can rest in the room that doesn't need any work done on it. It's not about running away from life. It's about being in the present moment so much that nothing can move you. Learning that real safety is inside is what it's all about. You make the way to this room stronger every time you come back to it. Every breath, pause, and moment of stillness helps open the door a little more. It won't even feel like coming back one day. It'll be like being alive. So take a break here, in the quiet that lies beneath work. Hold on to it. Learn from it. Allow it to change you. Because everyone will always tell you to hurry up. But there is peace in the room that never comes back. Follow your breath home. Give padi a chance to heal your bones. And let the quiet be your safe place. This is the start of your real life, not in the chatter, but inside in the quiet room. Come on, let's stay a while longer. It's just breathing, becoming, just got home. But there's something else, even in the quiet room. Someone or something that whispers just loud enough to be heard. A face that just keeps coming up. A copy of yourself that follows you around like a shadow. It says bad things, not screams. It judges, not yells. This voice inside keeps the war going even when the room is quiet. A fight with the mirror. A fight with the idea of what you think you should be. We'll go there next. There is a quiet cruelty in how we see ourselves. There is nothing bad about it, just a look, a thought, or a feeling about the idea in your head or the image in the glass. That being said, it cuts deeper than most words. What was the worst part? It's inside. It's hidden from everyone else. It's only heard by you. It never ends, though. That fight you have with yourself over who you are and who you think you should be. It's also very tiring. There's still stress behind the eyes, even if everything seems fine on the outside. Job, family, health. An ache in the jaw. There is a pain that never quite goes away. It's like life keeps telling you to be someone more, not the same person, someone better. What if, though, that stress isn't coming from life? What if it comes from an idea you never had? If the idea of the self you're rating isn't real the way you've been told it is, then what? This is a very different part of Buddhism. It presents the idea of anatta, which means not self. It also doesn't work as a metaphor. It really means it. This truth is at the heart of Buddhist thought. There is no solid set you, not even the body, not the name. It's not the person, not even the story. Everything you think you are changes all the time. Still, most pain comes from forgetting that, from treating something that is fluid like it's a frozen character. When you look in the mirror, you see a picture. You see skin, lines, scars, fat, age, beauty, success, and failure. In reality, though, what you see is a moment. Not true, not a decision, just a flash of change caught in one picture. You judge that flash as if it were the only thing that makes you who you are. This is the trick. The picture of oneself turns into a courtroom. Every moment brings a new test. Every flaw comes with a new charge. There's always a judge in your head ready to find you guilty again, no matter how many praise you get or how much progress you make. Anatta doesn't say that you're not anything. It tells me you're not just one thing. The self is not a set thing, it says. It's a process. It's a flame, not an art piece. Nothing but a river. And once that is deeply understood, not just in your head, but also in your heart, the war with the mirror starts to end. Since you can't fight something that moves, when you change, you can't hate yourself. When the object keeps moving away, you can't hold on to your judgment. The strange freedom in that is that once you let go of an identity, judgment starts to feel less important. There's nothing to protect. There's nothing wrong, not a thing to show. The person you thought you had to be disappears into being. And appearance isn't the same. Presence doesn't judge. Most people are scared to let go of identity because they think it's what makes them real. Being aware of yourself is what makes you real, not your name, your standing, your past, or your plans. Your resume doesn't say that you're living. You can feel it in your breath, when your heart beats. As you are able to notice this very moment, that means you're not just the story you tell yourself. You're not just the mistakes you wish you hadn't made. You are more than the praise you're looking for, and more than the picture you work so hard to keep up. What do you do after you stop fighting with the mirror? You stop doing things. You should stop practicing your response. You should stop changing your tone to fit what other people want. You calm down enough to hear your own truth through the noise. As a Buddhist exercise, you can think about the 5 aggregates. Shape, feeling, seeing, thinking, and awareness are the 5 parts that make up what we usually call the self. And when we look at each part separately, we see that none of them can be called a self on their own. They change all the time, like waves in the ocean. The body changes. The thoughts change. Moods go up and down. It's not even the sense of me that changes when you pay attention. What are we hanging on to then? Who or what do we really judge when we say we hate ourselves? We hold on to clouds and then get mad that we can't make them into something solid. It's not that you stop caring about your growth when you accept yourself as you are. It means you should stop basing your worth on a lie. It's not that you're broken that you grow, it's just that things change. While you grow, you don't change into someone else. Instead, you become more free as yourself. And yes, that can be strange at first. It might be scary to take apart your identity after building it up your whole life. But what you find below that building is not a hole. It's room, being open, peace. The self is helpful, but it's not a good boss. It can help you get around, but it was never meant to be what you are. Buddha didn't tell us to get rid of our names or identities. He told us not to hold on to them, to look at them like clothes, used, worn, and loved, but never confused with who we are. So, when you look in the mirror next time, make your eyes less harsh. Don't look for mistakes to fix. Don't look for signs that you will succeed or fail. Without any story, just look at what's there, not based on measurements, just this face, just this being here, right now, because there is a quiet knowledge that has never changed beneath all of your versions. The person who didn't run away when they saw your first loss. The one who stuck with them through all of their mistakes. The one who is still here, breathe, watch, and listen. That knowledge doesn't think badly of you. It's keeping you down. It knows you don't need to be anything else. Let the mirror just be a mirror. Just let the thoughts be. Do not worry about the events, and let yourself be, without having to explain why. Because peace doesn't come from fixing the image. It happens when you understand that you are not the picture at all. You're what's still behind it. And when you stop fighting with yourself in the mirror, when the noise of who you think you are starts to fade, there is still noise. It's history. Not just pictures, but also sounds. Sounds of choices. Words that you wish you hadn't said. Thoughts of times you wish you could change. There's still a voice that says, but what about what you did, even if you've grown to like your reflection? That's the next level. The one that targets your past instead of your face, and you can't get through it with shame. You need something much stronger. We need to talk about kindness now, not in general, not as a nice thought, but as a force. Karu, the kind that changes, not just feels sorry for you, kind that doesn't feel sorry for the past, it sets it free. Feeling guilty sticks around. It holds choices in place and won't let go, even after they've grown, after the change, even after years. Some parts of the mind hold on to past selves like they're still there, and that version keeps playing over and over, even though it doesn't exist anymore. A mistake, a word, take a look, a time when you should have known better. For the times you didn't, you punish yourself now that you do. But this is where the Buddhist idea of karu comes in. Compassion isn't just being kind to other people, it's also being kind to yourself. You didn't fail with compassion. You learned. That doesn't make hurt okay, but it does show how weak people are. Remember that no one gets up in the morning wanting to hurt themselves or others. It's true that people do what they can from where they are, which could be confusion, pain, or just to stay alive. To forgive is not to forget. To forgive someone, you have to tell them the truth without putting a cage around it. You can see that the person who made that choice was trying to deal with things, feel safe, fit in, and be important. They might have failed. They might have hurt someone. However, they were not bad. They got lost. You can now stop punishing the ghost of the person you used to be. Karu can see everything. It sees the hurt child beneath the response, the teenager who felt abandoned under all the anger, the adult who is stressed out and hiding behind the avoidance. It sees what most people don't see, the deeper layers, and it takes the place of blame with understanding. Not so you can say something different happened, but so you can break the chain that is attached to it. Buddhists believe that kindness is active, not passive. It's strong. This saying says, "I see your pain and I won't turn away." And when you look inside yourself, amazing things happen. You start to understand not only what you did, but also what you didn't do. You can see the hunger, confusion, and fear in their eyes. You know now that you weren't bad. You were not awake. Now that you are aware, you can stop doing the sentence over and over again. The mind likes to write itself new sentences, and it loves to say, "You should have known better." But the only way to know better is to not know first. Growth takes time. You shouldn't make fun of a flower for being a seed. You don't scream at a baby because they don't know how to run. Still, we think we know everything about life before we even start living it. That loop is broken by karu. It doesn't ask you to explain your past. It just says, the moment you realized you were wrong, you became new. You are asked to hold it, to greet it with kindness instead of a whip, not like a tool but like a wound. This is the hardest part, letting go of the part of you that says, "But I don't deserve forgiveness." That's because you're really saying, "I don't think I'm allowed to be free." That's not humility. It's a secret form of dislike for yourself. He who is truly humble says, "I was wrong." When someone is not truly humble, they say, "I was wrong, and I should suffer forever." But Buddhism doesn't teach that you should be guilty forever. It teaches being present, and being present can't make you feel guilty about the past and still be whole. To do karu, how do you work with your old self? First, you pay attention to when guilt comes up. Pick a fight with it, but sit next to it instead. Find out what it wants, not what it wants, but what it really needs. It doesn't always need to be punished. Sometimes it just needs to be allowed to feel pain, to be sad about what happened, to feel sorry for the people you hurt, to cry for the old you that didn't have the skills, the love, or the vision. And when that sadness is seen, it starts to get lighter. Talking to the younger version of yourself is another thing you can do. Not to tell them off, but to say something they didn't hear. Not, "You didn't know," "You were scared," "You were trying," or "You did your best," but "Apologies. The cut is still open in part because it was never held carefully. Now you can do that." It also doesn't mean you shouldn't say sorry. It means you don't have to hate yourself to say sorry. It comes from being aware. No, you're not a bad person for taking responsibility. You're just more aware now. Being clear isn't a penalty, it's a gift. Simply put, it means I won't let who I was define who I am now. The Buddha didn't expect his followers to be perfect for a reason. He asked for honesty. He knew that people were changing, growing, and learning. He didn't tell them they should never fall. It was different how he taught them to rise. That might be your job now, to rise from your past with kindness, not to erase it, not to mix up shame with growth. Shame stops moving. There is compassion. Shame makes people feel alone. Compassion brings people back together. Compassion tells you that you are so much more than what you feel guilty about. Shame holds you back from becoming the person you want to be. Compassion cuts the cord. And it's not just about being calm. Studies in psychology have shown that self-compassion can lower anxiety, boost drive, improve health, and make relationships stronger. When you forgive yourself, you don't get lazy. So they are freer to do the right thing, because their choices aren't based on avoiding guilt, but on what's right. You stop reacting as much, not as defensive, more present. Now that being wrong doesn't destroy you as much, you're better able to accept when you're wrong. You've already made it through it. You are already okay with it. It's okay if you still feel pushback. Kindness isn't a switch, it's something you do. You'll be easy to soften some days. You'll have tough days. But even when things are hard, you're planting seeds. Kindness seeds, awareness-raising seeds. The seeds of peace to come. Writing a letter can be helpful sometimes. One part from the present day, you to the past day's you. Then one part from them to you now. Come on, words. Let your sadness come out. Start getting better. When the shame starts to rise again, remember this. Everyone who is trying to grow has made mistakes. Being mistake-free does not make someone smart. It means being ready to face mistakes with openness and kindness. Karu isn't weak in the sense that it's soft. It's as soft as water and strong enough to cut through stone. It doesn't make bad action okay. It makes it different. It changes the person who carries it too. Yes, you do hurt people. You let down your own expectations. You broke your own rules. Now you see it. That seeing is what made the difference. What you saw is the key. Real peace starts with being able to see that. Since there is no peace without pardon, thank you. Not being kind to yourself is also a part of forgiving others. Remember who you were before you knew better, not just who you are now. Get rid of that part of yourself. Give them a break. Thank them for making it through. Tell them thanks for what they did. After that, keep going with love. Not because you deserve it, but because you finally know that love was never about getting something. It had to do with seeing. You start to notice something deeper once you forgive the part of yourself that didn't know better. There are more things that left marks than just the past. Cracks have been made by life itself, in your mind, in your body, in the way you do things, in your story. You might not be trying to cover them for the first time. You're only now noticing. Seeing this brings you to the next fact. These broken parts of yourself might be the exact places where light comes in. A cracked bowl is the subject of an old Zen story. It's an easy story, but it has a truth that changes everything. Along with him was a bowl that had a small crack running down one side. He thought about getting a new one for years. When it was full of water, it leaked a little. It wasn't as good as the bowls the other monks had made. He did see something strange one day, though. As soon as he put the bowl by the window, the morning light came in through the crack and made the whole surface sparkle. One small crack shows a secret brilliance. From that point on, the monk stopped trying to fix it. The crack wasn't a flaw in his eyes. It was part of the story, a way for light to come in, a sign of life. This story shows something that Buddhists have always known. You can't have peace if you don't accept your flaws. Anicca, which means impermanence, is more than just letting go of things that end. It's about being aware that everything changes. Everything changes. Everything breaks. It's okay to say that. That's how it works. Flaws are not different from life. They show that there is life. That's where growth took place. They are places where pain broke something open. They look like the shape that pain leaves behind when it passes through you. But most people don't see those marks as holy. They see them as shame. They try to hide the crack, cover up the scar, make the story flow better, give a picture of themselves that hasn't been changed by time, weather, or truth. But trying to be perfect is bad for peace. For peace to be real, it has to cover the whole picture, not just the smooth top, but also the core that is scratched, chipped, dented, and soft. That part that wasn't safe, the part that wasn't left out, the part that will always be there. For a long time, we try to fix ourselves, as we try to smooth out our rough spots, trying to meet an unspoken standard of what it means to be good enough. We miss the fact that the most important people in our lives, the ones who move, comfort, and inspire us, are not perfect. They're real, they're bleeding, they've broken, they fell, and then got back up. When you learn Buddhism, you learn to respect what is real, for what has been worn down, for what isn't full, not as something to fix, but as a spot to rest. This is not a choice based on looks. It has to do with religion. You accept truth when you accept that things aren't perfect. You should no longer expect the world to live up to your standards, and once you give up, peace is possible. Anatta shows us that everything changes into something else all the time. You are part of that. You were never supposed to be perfect. You were supposed to change. You were meant to get older, to hurt, to become better versions of yourself, to give up dreams that don't work anymore, to understand that things fall apart not because you failed, but because that's how they were supposed to work. This new knowledge changes how you deal with your flaws. You no longer see them as marks. They become maps to you. Every mark shows a different time, something. A love that was lost. A mistake was made. A chance taken. A time for healing. A time to stay alive. You wouldn't be here without those times. You wouldn't be yourself without those times. When you go into a Buddhist temple in many places, you'll often see broken figures, used up. No one buffs them to make them shine, because what they wear gives them power. They have the power of time in them, out of love, of strength. This is what stays when everything else fades. They teach without words. You're also that. You tell the story of time, not just the good times, but the days seem to go on forever, the nights that made you cry, the mornings you didn't think you'd get up. They are quiet things you carry, and maybe no one sees, but the light does. The light always finds a way in. The bowl with the crack isn't pretty because it hides the crack. The crack can be seen, which makes it beautiful, because it doesn't say sorry for the break, because it makes a mirror out of that crack. Stop fixing things and start observing. That's the call. So you can see where your losses turned into knowledge, to honor the parts of you that kept going even though things weren't going well. When you give up trying to get over things, you can find peace. Not in loss. I mean with respect. This made me feel bad, and I'm still here. That is holy. That's what strength is. That kind of beauty can only be found by living your life to the fullest. When you know this, you can no longer compare things. Because you stop enviously looking at other people's smooth surfaces when you see your own cracks as gold. Stop trying to be beautiful the way they do. You begin to believe in your own texture, your own speed, your own timetable. This isn't about making pain look good. It's about not acting like you didn't feel it, about deciding not to change who you are. It's about being soft where you used to be tough, about how to see your own broken edges as works of art. As part of Japanese tradition, people fix broken pottery with gold, which is called kintsugi. The break ends up being the best part. That's not just a figure of speech. There is spiritual truth to it. Broken things that are carefully fixed are worth more than things that were never broken in the first place. If you stop hiding, this is what will happen. As soon as you give up trying to be perfect to get peace, when you let people see the cracks, the gold shows up, not from outside, but from the inside. Anatta tells you that nothing lasts, not the hurt. It's not the decision, not the fear, not even the self. Things change. That means you're free. You are free to let go of perfection. You are free to start enjoying the process. Feel free to let go of your breath and live with it. Because making things stay put is a waste of time once you realize that nothing is fixed. You let people go. You let your hopes drop. You don't fix your mistakes. Peace rises not because everything is clean, but because everything is true. The broken bowl isn't just a sign, it's also a way of doing things. Something to remember you to live your life the same way. Be careful, being honest, being aware that it's okay to hold something that leaks a little. You can still love something that was taken away. When something no longer fits someone else's idea of whole, it's still okay to hold on to it. You might also start to treat other people the same way, because of their rough edges, with care, with respect for their past, with love that doesn't need them to be perfect to be good enough. The world gets softer when you live this way. Thins out judgment. The compassion grows, presence grows, and your energy comes back, not to fix things, but to live. Let go of the idea that you are perfect. Hold on to the truth of change. The bowl broke after being used, because it worked, since it lived. You did too. You don't need to be fixed. People need to know about you. Allow the light to pass. Let it go everywhere. It should show you that the place you hid is where peace has been waiting the whole time. You're no longer hiding the cracks. You are no longer trying to hide the flaw, crack, or weakness that makes you human. But now there's another trick, a less noisy one. It does not shame you. Instead, it tempts you. It talks a language that can heal. Peace is promised if you could just put yourself back together. That sounds good, even wise. However, below, it's just another race. Still another thought that you are not enough as you are, that your soul is like a puzzle that is missing one piece, that you need to fix, fit together, align, and merge until the inner chaos finally stops. What if that's just another trick, though? Self-integration, or becoming whole, is a common goal in the West. But it can quickly become a drive to make the inner world perfect. A soft rule that tells you, you can't rest until you know who you are. It puts your identity on a shelf and tells you to rearrange it so it looks balanced. And every time something new comes up, like a habit, a feeling, or a contradiction, you think, I need to figure this out too. Buddhism offers a very different way to go in this area. It doesn't say, fix yourself. It says, free yourself. Not because you're broken, but because you're not a thing. You are not a list of traits that can be compiled. You're not the end of a story. You're not even a steady person. You're a field of light. Something, an opening up. And the need to identify and organize yourself all the time is what keeps you from being at peace. You feel more broken the more you try to find wholeness. Because putting yourself together like a Lego set doesn't lead to real inner peace. You get it when you let go of the idea that there was, or should be, a perfect way for you to be. When life asks you to be open, fluid, or just present, you get tired of trying to be someone whose thoughts make sense. In Buddhist psychology, there is no such thing as a set self. There are just groups of things, experiences, a tendency, being conscious as situations change. The urge to shape them into a single, perfect picture isn't helping them heal. It's holding on. It's just ego building in a quieter way. There are times when you identify, even though you think you're merging. It still feels safe for you to build a version of me. And in this case, safety is based on being consistent, not telling the truth. But the truth changes all the time. The truth is crazy. You care about others and act on them. Very smart and careless. 1 hour it was calm, the next it was crazy. You're grounded 1 minute and lost in your thoughts the next. That's not a sign of failed merger. That's just how living things are. It is a form of spiritual pressure that comes in the form of self-work, to think that you need to answer all of your problems before you can rest. Stopping to collect yourself makes you feel better. How do I make this version of me match that version of me comes off your mind. Stop making projects out of your inner life. You start to live with contradictions. On the Buddhist road, you don't have to be a certain way. You just have to be present for whatever comes up. And that includes chaos, mess, and conflict. When you know you don't have to make everything make sense, you feel free. There are some feelings that don't have names. Some parts of you don't need a backstory. Some changes in mood aren't regressions. They're just the weather. And when you stop trying to make your own life harmonious, you find peace in something deeper, not fighting. Not resisting is not the same as not caring. It's a strong faith in change. This is what happens when you realize that the self isn't a figure to be carved, but a stream to be seen. You're not here to make a perfect copy of yourself. You're here to know what's going on. Yes, that does go against everything we've been told. People tell us that the goal is to find our true self and make all of our parts fit together. This idea comes from therapy, self-help, and inspiring quotes. The child self, the parent self, the dreamer self, and the wounded self are all at odds with each other. What if they don't need to be fixed, though? What if they're not really at odds? What if they're just parts that come and go from the experience field? Early Buddhist books don't say that enlightenment means becoming perfect. They say that it means no longer identifying as someone. It means letting go of the false idea that the self is a stable, unified thing. And that let go gives them a calm kind of freedom. Not the exciting kind, the soft kind. The kind where you don't ask yourself every morning, what am I supposed to be now? What you do instead is rest in the awareness that watches. The kind of knowledge that doesn't need to be integrated. The kind of knowledge that doesn't stack identity like trophies on a shelf. The awareness that says, this also belongs, so you don't have to put it away. You stop blaming yourself for changing when you stop trying to get yourself together. When an old wound comes back, you stop saying, I thought I healed this already. When you're suddenly angry, tired, or lost, you stop telling yourself, this isn't me. You understand that you is not a tightrope to walk, but rather an opening to new experiences. Life slowly stops being a story and starts being more of a dance. Stop telling everyone about all of your feelings. Don't turn every thought into an assessment of yourself. Things are just the way they are because you let them be. Not a true picture of who you are, not a message about how whole you are. Just a moment. This isn't inactive either. It's very much living. Being present, being honest, and being humble are needed. It means being in pain without making your identity out of it. It means being aware of your happiness without trying to keep it going. It means being okay with the fact that you are a sculpture and pieces fall off from time to time. New ones come in every so often. Plus, they don't always tell you what picture they're making. It's all right. It's not important to finish. To stay awake is the point. Giving up on integration means giving up the need for everything to fit. It means you stop expecting yourself to be constant when the world around you isn't. It means you shouldn't say sorry for moving. In other words, your sense of self becomes soft, light, and airy. And your pain gets worse when your identity changes. Because pain thrives in small places, on labels, in boxes, because there are no walls between I am this and I am not that. It has everything in it. It sees everything. It never makes you pick between things that are different from each other. It only wants you to be with them. Don't rush to get yourself together the next time you feel like you're all over the place. Do not worry. Say something like, this is what it feels like to be uncontained. This is what it feels like to be alive without borders. Or, this is what it feels like to let go of the project. Since you were never meant to be a project, it was never meant for you to be finished. You are awareness moving, experience of consciousness touching, the spirit going through time. Peace isn't at the end of self-assembly. It's already here, below the need to put anything together. Take a deep breath. Leave the pieces where they are. Question things should stay open. Allow the name to be open. You don't need to put everything together. If something is coming apart, you just need to let go of it. Don't give up on it, but stop believing that it makes you who you are. This is how Buddhism frees you from the need to make your inner world look good. It does not allow merging. It makes you feel close with what there is, the way it is, without trying to change the experience to make it better. It's not necessary for the pieces to fit together. People need to see them. That's where peace starts. That's where you stop getting yourself together and start going back to what has always been whole, the awareness that holds everything. Something strange happens when you stop taking it all in. You don't break down, you don't go away. It's not like you change into someone else. You breathe without trying to fit it into a plan for the first time. You don't think about who you need to be before you wake up. But just as things are getting calmer, someone else speaks up. Not as harsh as shame, and not as loud as self-doubt. It says in the background, you're not done. The mind changes its focus from who they are to how they can get better, moving from integrating to fixing. There is still pressure, it only changes clothes. You're no longer trying to become whole, now you're trying to become better, all the time. We'll go there next. Self-improvement sounds like a good idea. In fact, encouraging. But for many, it turns into a quiet fight. As if it were wise, war. A long-term plan to improve the things about yourself that someone once said weren't good enough. It starts with drive and ends with tiredness. And the worst part is that it's never really over. You can always fix something else, make something better, or open something else. Heart keeps beating fast as the target moves. It's all for the sake of growth. But Buddhism gives us a big break, not against growth itself, but against the pain that it can hide. The middle way is the most important part of the Buddha's way. Not too tight or too loose, not giving in or refusing, not lack of interest or fixation. This middle road isn't just about how you live, it's also about how you think. It's the opposite of extremes, even the subtle one that says you have to work on yourself all the time to be good. It is one of the most deeply ingrained ideas that you are a problem that needs to be solved. It gets into everything. It gives you goals to work toward when you're alone. When you rest, you feel like you failed. Meditation becomes a show because of it. The basic things that make you human are mixed with judgment. Suddenly, feeling sad isn't just feeling sad. It's something you shouldn't still feel. Feeling anxious isn't just energy, it's something you should have healed by now. And before you know it, your inner world is like another job, another list of things to do, one more thing to handle. Stop, says the middle way. Stop right now. Take a deep breath. Feel this, without having to say whether it was a step forward or backward, without trying to learn something from it, without making your life a job that never ends. When you try to fix everything about yourself all the time, you forget how to be yourself. You miss the person who was here before, the one that didn't need any repairs, seeing only. Don't take this to mean you never change. In other words, the change is no longer caused by stress. It comes from being at peace, from being clear, from life itself spreading. Spring is like a flower that opens with the season, not because someone is trying to hurry it along. When you stop feeling like you need to get better right away, something deeper starts to move. Not getting better, but knowing. Not improvement, but freedom. Because wanting to change yourself so badly is often a sign that you don't like who you are as you are. That a thought, emotion, or behavior keeps you from being able to rest. But Buddhism doesn't say that you can be at peace once you've worked on yourself. It shows you that peace is already there, right now, beneath the story of the person you think you need to become. If you look at the Buddha's life, you don't see someone who was always trying to get better. You see someone who sat under a tree not to get what they wanted, but to stop trying. Getting enlightened wasn't a prize. The lack of grasping was what it was. When he realized, there was nothing else to say. To see that truth, it was already there. It wasn't something that had to be achieved. This is the peace that can't get any better. The point at which you give up bargaining with yourself, where you stop telling yourself, "I'll love myself when," and start resting in the love that doesn't need anything in return. That has nothing to do with how disciplined, consistent, or smart you are. A love that is. Giving up the urge to fix things doesn't mean you stay stuck. It means that your movements will feel normal, like waves coming back to the shore, like taking a deep breath in and out. There is still growth, but it's not pushed. It's not because they don't like themselves. It comes from being still, not from fighting. Everything can fit in that silence. For the parts of you that still feel lost, for the old habits that keep coming back, for the stories that come back from time to time, they can't be stopped by stillness. Looks around. It's true. Change takes place in that holding, not because it has to, but because it wants to. You can let go of life, and it will start to move. The middle way asks you to pay attention to how often your search for peace makes things worse. How often your aim to understand leads to more confusion. How often your attempts to calm down turn into a different kind of noise. You can stop when you realize that. Not always. For now only. Just long enough to see that nothing else is needed to finish the moment. You haven't missed this moment because you haven't grown enough. It's whole because it's real. The job is done since it's here. It's not your job to fix it, it's your job to meet it, the way it is. The more you try to get better, the farther away you get from the whole truth that you are. This awareness doesn't count. It's not the same. It doesn't judge your thoughts as spiritual. It just looks around, without a doubt, keeping it simple, with kindness. A fear of being seen is often hidden behind the desire to get better, of being judged, being left behind. But being aware doesn't go away. It does not embarrass. It moves slowly. When you rest in it, you start to feel something strange and new, enoughness. As a thought, no, but as a country. How your body feels, the same as a slow breath. It's not enough to say you're done. In other words, you don't have to change into someone else to start. To be at peace, you don't have to fix everything. To deserve love, you don't have to be perfect. No matter what, the middle way shows you that you don't have to fix everything or avoid everything. You can just stay here and live a simple life. And when you stop trying to get better all the time, joy comes back. Not the kind that makes you feel high and buzzy, the easy kind, like when you peel an orange by yourself and don't say a word. As I watched a leaf fall, from taking a break and not having to learn anything, joy that doesn't teach, it just shows up. The world will always have more tech, books and tools. Some of them might even be useful. You can turn even the best tools into cages if they make you feel like you're never good enough. Follow what helps, says the middle way. Get rid of what doesn't work. Always go back to the part of yourself that is whole without tools. And this is the change, from making yourself perfect to noticing that you were already perfect, from work to ease, from figuring out to feeling, from climbing to taking a break. So it's okay if you feel unfinished, messy, or undone today. That means you're still living. That means you're moving. That means you're a part of the way things normally work. Now, all you have to do is stop fighting that. Just enjoy the moment as it is. Be who you are. It will get better. And something unexpected comes up when you stop trying to fix yourself. Peaceful. Not really relief, but peace. I don't feel numb. I feel like I'm taking my first breath after years of being underwater. Something else comes to the surface in that silence. Not even a thought, not a goal. Being there, more youthful, broken, waiting. The hurt part of you that didn't have words. The part of you that just wanted to be held and didn't need answers. And all of a sudden, all the answers feel too loud because this part needs to be quiet. Not the lack of sound, but the kind of quiet that sounds like, I'm here now, and heals without words. That kind that can touch without hands. That's where we're going now. The worst pain doesn't always come from what happened. It has to do with how long it was forgotten, from how often it was played down, rushed, or explained away. Especially when it's the pain of your inner child, the part of you that felt confused, abandoned, or ashamed before you knew how to talk about it. It was hidden in the body because it didn't have any words. In the air, in the small tightenings that never quite let go. Now that it's an adult, it tries to talk, but it doesn't use words. Tension is used, weakness, going too far, being numb. No matter how hard we try to fix it with words, it just goes away even more. But here's the strange thing, it runs away to quiet, which is also the silence that heals it. Not the cold kind, the kind that doesn't care, the good kind. Noble silence is what Buddhists call a holy, live presence that doesn't ask for anything and just listens to everything. Silence that is noble is not nothingness. It's full attention without any breaks. Being with something without changing it is what it means. They didn't try to make it better, not to try to explain it away. The break is what lets old scars heal without being cut open. When there is no inner criticism, there is space for safety to return. It doesn't look like this kind of silence will do. It looks like it is. Dealing with your past, getting close to the part of you that never felt complete. Not by giving it more stories, but by being there. Something deep happens when you stop talking to your pain and just sit with it. You don't have to tell your inner kid that everything is fine. It only needs to know that it's no longer by itself. Words often try to fix. There is no sound. And saying, I'm sorry, over and over isn't always the best way to say sorry. I'm here is all that is said. This breath doesn't rush to the next thought. That pause doesn't need to be filled in. There is more to good silence than just quiet in Buddhist retreats. It's a carrying case, a place to hold. There is a way to live the truth without talking about it. It's where people get better, not because someone said the right thing, but because no one said anything at all. It felt safe to be quiet. There was enough room. This is the kind of quiet that a child can handle, since that's what they've always spoken, before words, before giving answers, before you learned how to act. That young part doesn't need your advice. It wants you to be still. It wants you to take deep breaths. Your heart is grounded, your presence without a hurry. But here's the thing. You don't have to live everything over again. You don't need to reveal every moment of childhood pain to heal it. You should stop running away from the pain. Stop analyzing everything that's quiet. Don't use words to win the battle. There is no way to win this fight. Only being there is something to offer. You grow up and become the adult you've always wanted to be. Not because they said the right thing, but because they wouldn't turn away. Instead of fixing people, you start living it. And then the nerve system starts to calm down slowly. The body starts to get softer. Without trying, the breath gets deeper. That's because your past starts to trust you again once you stop trying to change it. The inner child starts to think that it's finally safe to come forward. It doesn't mean you forget. It means you shouldn't argue about things that came up already. You don't need to write the story again. You just sit there with your hands open in the ruins and don't say anything, since there's no need for it. Being quiet also helps you be patient. It shows you don't need to solve things right away, that sometimes the pain doesn't want to be solved, it wants to be seen, not judged while being watched, with soft eyes. The kind of seeing that tells you, you don't need to change for me to notice you. You don't give up your pain when you practice noble silence. You tie up next to it. You let it air out. You didn't say anything when it cried. You didn't get in the way of how it felt. You hold the damage like a sleeping child, not to wake it, not to fix it, but to protect the space it takes up. That's the apology, by the way, the one that the inner child never got, the one that says, "This time I won't leave you," is what heals. Lack of understanding. It's not plans, but force that doesn't move. The child inside may not feel like a problem for the first time, doesn't make you feel weighed down. You don't feel like you need to grow out of it. It becomes a part of you, not because they were told, but because they loved it without question. Buddhist teachings say that kindness is more than just a nice feeling. It's also the action of staying steady in the face of suffering, even your own, most of all your own. And being quiet is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself. For some reason, it won't fix. It doesn't want to run. It doesn't want to hide behind noise. There is something in this silence. It is holy. It has room for things that words can't say, for sadness that had no name, for fears that never got away, for dreams that were never heard. And time starts to stretch in this holy place. Old wounds don't hurt as much as they used to. The body gets some rest. This is not a one-time thing. It's a return, over and over, returning to the silence beneath the inner conversation, returning to the breath when thoughts become too loud, returning to awareness when pain resurfaces. Not to get rid of it, but to stay with it. You heal the inner child more each time you go back, because healing isn't a show. It's a way to stand, a chance to stay, a choice about how to breathe through the pain, a choice to listen with no particular goal in mind. That's where the real change starts. No new information is being added or problems are being solved. Something soft and steady in the middle of what used to be awful. You don't have to talk about how hurt you are. You don't have to talk about how you're healing. You only need to stay with what comes up without judging it or making up a story about it. That's when the apology turns into quiet. That's the peace that turns into home. Something softer starts to open up after you've sat with your pain in silence and not tried to change it. A kind of permission from within. You no longer push against yourself. Stop being scared of your own feelings. You don't run anymore. You haven't fully turned around just because you're not running anymore. One more thing to do. One that almost no one chooses. One that doesn't feel right at first. To not only accept the parts of yourself that you used to push away, but to bow down to them. To treat your shadows with respect instead of anger. That's where we're going now. When you bow, you show strength. Not the kind that gives up out of fear, but the kind that can see things clearly. Not in front of a person, but in front of the truth. Bowing isn't a sign of worship in many Buddhist traditions. It's a way to practice being aware. It's important to remember that the ego is not the heart of everything, that life shouldn't be ruled over. It should be respected. Something very different happens when you bow to the parts of yourself that you've been trying to push away. The war is over. The fight goes away. Everybody has a shadow. Some parts of our personalities, behaviors, or pasts that we don't want to claim. It could be a fear that you try to hide by being in charge. To hide your anger, you act like you don't care, a bad habit that you've called an addiction. Something you never talk about because it makes your chest feel like stone. The shade is real, no matter what shape it takes. It's been following you around, waiting to be seen, not because it makes you who you are. A lot of people try to fix it. Defend yourself, bury it, give it a better name. Try to change it by working at it. But Buddhism has something else to offer. Not another try to kill the ghost, but a request to bow. To treat the part of you that you don't want with care. It's not good. Not because it's nice, but because it's real. And all life and experience should be known. The act of bowing is a sign. You bring yourself down, not to be small, but to respect what has been ignored. You put the heart below the head. Being humble guides you. When you turn this routine from something you do to something you do to yourself, it turns into a sacred practice of reclaiming wholeness. To the fear, you say, I see you, without words. To the anger, due to the need. To the hurt, I see you, and I'm not going to send you away anymore. This isn't the same as giving in to your evil. Giving it power is not the point. It's about getting rid of the false idea that it's different from you, that your shadow is someone from another world. It's not. This piece of you was shaped by pain, lacked love, and was misread by the mind that came after it. And a bridge is made when you bow. What is known and what has been kept secret, between what you've avoided and who you are. Healing takes on a form when this bowing is done in a traditional way. Not just mental forgiveness, but real recognition. It's possible to bow, in deep thought, in a room that is quiet, knees bent, hands to heart, or the ground, on the floor. You can also bow inside yourself as a powerful act of humility. You can breathe into the part of yourself that you used to reject, and with each exhale, let go of the judgment. Not in general, being used. Something changes at that time. It's getting less scary. A little less shame comes over me. There are fewer and fewer worries left. The shadow was most afraid of not being wrong. It was being left behind. You've now come back. It's not magic that makes this work. It's energy. Judgment makes things smaller. Denial leads to division. But being present leads to reconciliation. The body stops bracing when you meet the parts of yourself that you don't want with calm and kindness. It's safe for the nerve system to feel this way, and that's what starts the healing process. Buddhist monks bow hundreds of times every day in many places, not because they don't deserve it, but because bowing makes them think of how everything is linked, of being humble, of the right size for the ego, and we can bring this same respect into our own lives. Why do we bow down to our flaws? Not because they are holy, but because they make us human, and people deserve love. The parts of you that you don't want to see are safe. They are dangerous because you don't know what they are doing. Your fight back is what gives them power. When you look at them, not with more thought, but with a regular act of attention, they start to relax. They no longer need to control you, since they've been seen. You can give in to your fear, not because you agree with it, but because you know it's there for a reason. You can give in to your habits, to know that they formed to protect you and not let them run your life. You can bow down to your sadness, to honor the part of you that didn't know any better, not to drown in it. This method takes a long time. It's not flashy, but it's very deep. It changes how you see yourself over time. Stop separating things into good and bad, and stop cutting off the parts that make you feel bad. You start to understand that being whole is what brings real peace, not being pure. Also, being whole is not a feeling. There is a link. Being in touch with everything that makes you up. Not even the urges, even the thoughts, even the ones that come up at the worst times. All of them fit. Not because they're easy to get to, but because they're real. You might feel like you need to change to be loved by yourself. In reality, all you have to do is bow. You only need to come back. You just need to stop being so rude to the darker parts of yourself. They're not out to get you. They want to be met, to take place, to get out of exile. So, bending becomes a way to free yourself. This is not a loss of honor. It is the finding of it. Respect for being able to see yourself clearly when you treat your own pain like a holy thing, in refusing to separate your soul into parts that are good and parts that are bad. And slowly, the noise inside your head stops. Not because the shadows are gone, but because they aren't banging on locked doors anymore. You let them in. You made them feel welcome. Instead of chains, you gave them tea. Without this act, there is no peace. You can focus for a long time, read all of them, get better at every routine. You'll never feel whole if you keep running away from the parts of you that hurt. You will always be doing something. This is what freedom looks like when you bow. You stop doing things. You start taking part. You start to show up as the holy, messy, and flawed wonder that you are. And by showing up, you take back every piece. That's all you need to say. You're part of the story. Whatever you do, don't treat your shadows like enemies anymore. Instead, treat them with respect as messages. A new thing starts to move. Do not be afraid, not shame. However, space. You are no longer at war with what is inside you. You've given up trying to send parts of yourself away and instead welcomed them back home. But there's still one more thing that's making things hard, even though the inner world is getting better. A lower level. Being sure that how you feel is how you really are. What does the storm inside you mean? You become who you are because of a bad moment. That having a bad thought makes you a bad person. It's hard to see, but this effect is strong. Now it's time to break it. Let's go there. There are times when the mind is very loud. Thoughts move quickly. Feelings get stronger. Stories go around and around. You seem to be stuck, flooded, and heavy. There is almost instant identification. I'm worried. I'm failing. I'm broken again. The language is quick. It moves faster than you can breathe. On the other hand, there is a confusion. This thought is that if a storm is going through you, then the storm is you. A different point of view is given by Vipasana, the Buddhist practice of clear seeing. It tells you that your feelings and thoughts are not who you are. They are short-lived events in our minds, not buildings, but weather, wind, not building. You don't become your worry when it comes up, just like you don't become rain when it falls. You're not the storm, you're the sky it goes through. This idea seems easy to understand, but everything changes when you live it, because you suffer twice as much when you think you are your own inner chaos. The first thing is the feeling itself. Then from the story that says your feelings make you who you are. Vipasana wants you to get rid of that second level of pain. It doesn't tell you to hide what you're feeling. It wants you to see it as it is, not become it. This is not a way to get away from pain. It's about being able to see it clearly enough so that you don't get lost in it. Instead of saying, "I am sad," you notice that sadness is present. Similarly, when anger flares up, you notice that anger is moving through. This small change in words shows a huge change in consciousness. You're not the wave. You are the mind that sees it go up and down. Vipasana teaches you to watch your experience without judging it, holding on to it, or rejecting it. First, you pay attention to your breath, not to change it, but to learn how to do it. The breath is always there and doesn't change, and you don't scold your mind when it wanders, which it will. You bring it back, kindly, over and over. This makes the skill of watching stronger. Then you pay the same amount of attention to your feelings. There may be stress in the chest, a tight feeling in the jaw. I feel hot in my stomach. You don't label or fix, you just watch. You can see where it starts, how it beats, how it goes away. You stay close without being sucked in. This is how you begin to see. Everything that comes up goes away. Moods don't last forever. Thoughts are not strong. All of them come and go like clouds in the sky. You also learn something else as your practice gets stronger. Storms don't just happen. They've been trained. They come from memories, habits, and mental patterns that were made by doing the same things over and over again. But just because they were trained doesn't mean they will stay that way. They are loud, but that doesn't mean they are true. Vipasana helps you get away, but not the kind that breaks links, the kind that sets you free. Because when you stop merging with your thoughts, you start to see them as just that, thoughts, not facts, not threats. There are only waves of energy that will go away on their own. You also start to notice how fast your mind tries to make up ideas. When you feel bad, you start to think things like, "I'll never be okay," "This always happens," or "Something is wrong with me." But if you pay attention to the feeling itself, you'll find something much less dramatic. A flash, a sound wave, getting tighter. That's all there is to it. The storm was the story. It was just weather for the body. This is what it means to be free of identity. To be at peace, your mind doesn't have to be quiet. You just need to stop thinking it's who you are. You don't have to force happiness. You should stop holding on to every bad thought like it's set in stone. This is hard at first. Being yourself has a strong pull. You don't just let thoughts pass through. You grab them, talk about them, and practice them. Feelings make you who you are, not just what you do. But as you practice, you start to see the space between the stimulus and the reaction. The short pause. The pause before the story. That's where your power is. The choice to be aware instead of reacting. And it becomes easy to make that choice after a while. You still feel, you still think. You no longer fall into every situation, though. You become like a mountain, steady and still, even when storms and clouds swirl around its peak. Because the Buddha's thought was quiet, he didn't wake up. For him to wake up, the noise had to stop cutting him off. He had a good view. It was clear to him that all feelings were temporary, that each thought was just a wave, that identity was made up. He felt at peace when he saw that. This is what Vipasana teaches: being clear, not quiet, not command, but freedom. There's no need for you to become anything you feel. You can think deeply without letting your thoughts decide what you're worth. You can suffer without making your wounds a part of who you are. You're not the storm, you're the one who sees the sky. Something very important happens when you start to live this truth. You stop being scared when your mind gets loud. Stop judging yourself for being a person. You stop seeing every change in your mood as a sign that you've failed. You breathe instead. You look around. Wait. The mind slowly calms down on its own, not because you pushed it, but because you stopped giving it fear. This exercise also makes people more compassionate. Once you can clearly see your own inner storms, you won't judge other people for theirs. You can see the same trends, the same habits, the same loops. What you do instead is hold room. In a world full of chaos, you become a calm presence, not because you got away from the storm, but because you remembered you were never it. Try this the next time you feel like you can't handle anything. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Keep an eye on where the stress is. Name the feeling as a visitor, not as a person. There is fear here. Grief is on the way, and restlessness here. Then do nothing. Stay put. Watch. Don't change anything. Let yourself be sky. There's one more layer that starts to show up once you stop connecting with the storm and learn how to sit in the middle of the chaos without becoming it. It doesn't yell, tells a story, always and quietly. It gives things meaning. It gives each event a name. Your story ends, what you earn, and who you are all summed up in it. It sounds like the truth. It's just a voice, though, the inner voice that tells the story. This voice is the writer, if the storm is the weather, the person who can find a story in every cloud. It's time to take the writing away from it now. We'll go there next. The inner storyteller is someone you know. This part of your mind tells you about your life, moment by moment, like a blog you didn't ask for. It explains what takes place. It thinks about what you do. That tells you how people think of you. Every thought writes down who you are. It seems like they say these things all the time. You're not good enough. This always happens. You'll never change, and you don't belong here. It's not, though. It's what they do. A mental habit that comes from years of being understood, protected, and managed. Through Vipasana, you can see your feelings as just temporary. But what about the voice that's behind the feelings? The one that tells you what the weather says about you? That voice is what makes the pain last. Not the event itself, but the thoughts that went along with it. The story. You're not only having anxiety, someone is telling you a story about what that worry means about your worth. You're not just sad, you're being told the story of a character who is hurt, powerless, or weak. The pain isn't just caused by how they feel, because they believe the story that goes along with it. Noting is a strong tool that Buddhist mindfulness can help with this. Labeling thoughts and mental moves in the most neutral way possible is what noting is all about. It doesn't blend into the story, you name it. You don't say what planning, judging, worrying or remembering means. It doesn't matter what you say. You don't fix it. You just write it down and let it go. This habit changes your life in a small but important way. It wakes them up. It puts a small gap between knowledge and story. You're not in the thought. You're just notice it. You're not acting from the plot. You're just seeing the words. Not true. It's not fate. Not who you are. As the words rise and fall, there is quiet. And there is something softer coming out in the silence. A calm that doesn't need the story to end. Freedom that doesn't depend on things going well, because you understand that the story wasn't what needed to be changed once you stop editing the script. It was how you felt about it. You've been working on changing the inner voice for years. Try to fix the tone of it. Change the way it ends. Affirmations should be used instead of bad self-talk, but that can also turn into a trap. You're still in the story if you're still writing a new script. It seems like you're still connecting with a thought-based version of yourself. It's only when you remember that you're the screen and not the figure that you can find peace. The storyteller doesn't need to be shut up. You should stop following it. There you have it. When your mind says, "You're failing," write "judging." When it says, "No one respects me," write "story." When it says, "This shouldn't be happening," write "resistance." That's all you need to do. No question, no reason given, just being aware. And what comes next doesn't always happen right away. It takes a while for the storyteller to disappear. It will come back. It will change. It will try to sound more inspirational and make sense. Some might even start telling you stories while you meditate, like, "You're doing this right," or "This is how peace feels." They are all stories. Take note of it. Allow it to go. It's not the goal to silence the voice. To see it is the point, and by seeing it, to stop letting it steer you. It was taught a long time ago that thoughts are like guests. Allow them to come and go. Just don't serve them tea, they said. But most of us do more than that. We give them the keys, move the furniture around, and let them move in. That habit won't go away. But not with anger, but with understanding. They can knock. You give a polite nod, you let them go. This method is gentle, but it's not a pass. To notice without responding takes work. It takes self-control to name the thought without turning into it. There will be stories that pull you in more than others. The story of not being liked. How I ended up being too late. The story of being too much. Old scripts like these stick around. You were too young to question them when they were written. You can now, though. Not when you use new mantras, not with arguments based on ideas. But there was no sound, with no movement. They look at them straight in the eyes and say, "This is not me. Just a thought. I don't have to follow it." You'll start to feel a gap inside getting bigger as you keep doing this. Not an empty space, but a space of freedom. The space between what you think and who you are. In the middle of writing and awareness. And there's nothing to prove there. There is nothing to do. There is no personality to keep up. Just being there. You won't need the story to explain yourself anymore. The storyteller will no longer have to praise you. You won't be afraid of what it says, because you have to believe it for it to stick. You now know what it is. It's possible that this is the first time you'll hear the silence below the story, the silence that was there before you thought, before it was interpreted, before time. That quiet is who you really are. The voice can be heard in that quiet. That quiet is the self that can't be hurt. You can feel sad there without being a sad person. You don't have to be lost to notice doubt. The script says, "You're not enough," and you smile, not because you're angry, but because you know what it means. Oh, there it is again. Just a story. Then you go on. No need for a defense. There's no need for a counter-story. Just being aware. This is what it means to get rid of old scripts. Not when you're mad, not by using force, but with the fire of being aware. The light that can see without a doubt and lets go. You're not the things your mind makes up about you. You are not a player in a story based on fear. You are the thought that makes the words possible, the stillness that comes after thinking, the free area where nothing needs to be written over again. When you realize that your inner storyteller is just a story machine, you start to notice something else. The stillness that comes after. That place where ideas don't stick and old stories lose their hold. But that peace may bring about a new habit. Not noise, but close attention. There was a sharp look inside, not by what you say, but by how you see yourself. A non-stop looking around. There is a strain around your attention. The mind's eyes can stay hard even when there are no stories to tell. And the next change needs more than just knowledge. It needs to be soft. A different way to look. A different way to see. Not by thinking about it, but by being kind. That's where we are going now. Most people think of other people when they think of loving kindness. If you think of metta, you might wish peace to someone far away who is hurting or having a hard time. But when you look inside, that's when the real struggle and change happen. When you feel the same love for yourself, not just your outward appearance, but your thoughts, what you tend to do, your flaws, the parts that you still don't want to claim. Your ideas may still be tight in your mind even after you stop believing them. The way you look at your habits might still give you an edge. You become aware of your fear and then strengthen yourself. You feel a hunger and immediately push it away. When you notice a reactive moment, you don't think, "There it is again," with interest, but with sadness. This is where you need to give soft care. Metta bhavana, or loving-kindness meditation, is not about pushing love. It's about learning how to hold what you're going through without getting tight in the heart. It's not being sentimental. It's not a dream. It makes you pay more attention. A choice to look with warmth, even when what you're seeing makes you feel bad. You start by showing kindness, simple words. You say, "May I be well, may I be safe, and may I be at peace." Not because you feel it, but because you're learning how to give it. At first, it feels like a machine, but things start to change over time. The words are no longer far away. The way you hold yourself starts to loosen up. And getting softer isn't a sign of weakness. It's medicine, because being very aware is just another way to protect yourself. A way to try to keep things under control. A way to make sure you find your mistakes before someone else does. But being aware in that way doesn't help. It makes the wound worse. When you become aware of metta, you stop feeling like you need to judge your inner world. Don't take every thought like a test. You no longer hold your breath every time an old feeling comes back. When you breathe into the moment, you tell yourself you can be here, even if you want something else, to the point of impatience, up to the point where your chest feels tight, To pay gentle care does not mean to be passive. It means to wait, present, ready to accept things as they are without trying to change, name, or get away from them. It means being aware of your fear and telling yourself, "Of course you're here. I've carried you for a long time," means noticing that you are guarded and trying to understand, then, instead of scolding you, "I see you. You want to keep something safe." When you go from being very aware to being very aware of nothing, everything changes. It changes how the brain and nerves work. How long feelings last changes because of it. Every day, it changes how you walk. When you stop seeing yourself as a job and start seeing yourself as a person who deserves kindness, you start to heal without even trying. Metta also shows you how many levels of rejecting yourself you've been carrying. You told yourself over and over that you were too much, too sensitive, or too tired. All the times you felt bad about not being further along. Those layers start to fall away when you start to be kind instead of critical. Slowly, kindly, not by force. This kindness isn't just in your head either. It takes on a body. You begin to rest more. You take deeper breaths. You take longer breaks. When you miss a text, forget something, or find yourself in an awkward silence, you notice how you talk to yourself. You put your hand on your heart and say, "Still learning," instead of hitting yourself. "Still good enough." Soft eyes don't try to hide what's going on. They don't lie about your trends. They just won't turn learning into a punishment. They still choose to stay, see, and love. Even if it's a mess. Even if it makes you feel bad. In real life, this is what Buddhist kindness looks like. It's more than just an idea. It's how you deal with your thoughts when they come up. It's how you talk to yourself after you mess up. When you don't judge, you offer silence. The pause before you put yourself down. The last breath you take before giving up in guilt. And yes, you need to work on this. Especially if you've thought that criticism and improvement are the same thing for years. Metta may seem strange if your path has been marked by strict rules and high standards. But after a while of doing it, it feels normal. You begin to lean toward kindness instead of tension. You don't start each day with a list of things you can do better. Instead, you say to yourself, "May I move through this day with care." At the end of the day, you don't think about the mistakes you made, but you tell yourself, "You did your best today. Now take a break." This soft look becomes the base of your life, and real change comes from that. It happened because you made it safe for growth to happen, not because you pushed it, in places where your nervous system didn't have to work hard, in places where your heart didn't have to fight, where your soul could just come out. So, if you notice that you're becoming rude again, stop. If you hear your inner judge getting louder, take a moment to calm down. If you feel like you're being watched, take a moment to stop. Take deep breaths. Put your hand on your chest. Say something easy. That's it. May I meet this moment with kindness. One word. Take a deep breath. One shift. Because peace doesn't live in completeness. It's in the way you come back to yourself after going off on a journey. It lives in the way your attention is soft, the way your awareness bends but doesn't break. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to get whole. And being whole starts with how you see things. When you look at yourself with soft eyes, when your awareness stops cutting and starts holding, another option starts to show itself. something you may not have felt in years. Being still. That kind of peace that you feel when the fight leaves your body, not the kind that you feel when you have to be quiet or work hard to think. If you look inside yourself, every moment will no longer have value, but the mind comes back as soon as that silence starts to rise, feeling like, what's next? Holding on, adding to, taking away the peace before it can settle down. This is where clarity fades, not because it's not there, but because it's buried under a surface that can't stay quiet. Stop stirring now. Just let the water sit there. That's where we will start next. A picture of a glass of muddy water is rare but strong in early Buddhist texts. It gets cloudier the more you shake it too, but if you stop moving and put it down, the mud will settle on its own, slowly. Of course, not by force. The water also gets clear. It's not because you cleaned it, but because you stopped making a fuss over it. This comparison is not only beautiful, but also accurate. The mind is like that glass. The sediment is made up of thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and the more you try to fix, understand, organize, or hide what happened, the more mud you stir up. When mixed with a sense of urgency, even self-awareness can turn into anxiety. But as soon as you stop getting in the way, things become clearer. It's not empty to be still, it's living. That's where the real seeing takes place. When you see something without thinking about it, you just are it. When your mind stops trying to hold on, the truth that's hidden beneath your confusion starts to show up on its own, not because you pushed it there, but because you finally made room for it to come out. It's not passive, it's not giving up, it's accuracy through not reacting. It's also one of the hardest things to do, because everything in today's world makes the opposite more likely. When someone is feeling bad, their first instinct is to fix it, to find solutions, to look into, to talk about it. But that's all making a noise, and mixing it up keeps the mud from sinking. It takes restraint, not as a form of punishment, but as a kind of holy patience, to let the mud settle. You sit down. You take deep breaths. You are aware of the pain. You don't push it away. You don't move toward it either. It's not over the top. You don't put a story on it. It stays where it is, and you don't try to speed things up. It feels weird at first, because when the water is murky, our first reaction is to do something to make it clearer. But taking action doesn't lead to understanding. It comes from being still. Being still doesn't mean freezing. It means not getting in the way. It means getting good at not moving. Your mind might be racing, a need to find out more. I need to figure this out is a thought, but figuring out is also an act. It keeps the dirt from sinking. It's already clear below the surface. It's the mind's normal state. Before anything gets in the way, it's not your job to make it. Your job is to stop getting in the way. Letting the mud settle is a way to teach trust, not in your head, but in the way that awareness works itself. That's like how a wound can fix itself if you don't touch it. The heart can also find balance if you don't keep opening it up. If you stop asking your mind to be clear, it will do so on its own. This is where peace can be found, not as a prize, but as a return. Going back to the quiet that was always there. You understand that fixing the water wasn't necessary. It needed to be quiet. The mud was never a mistake. It only took time. You can feel this right away when you meditate. You just sit with your pain, with how restless you are, with all the chaos in your heart. You need to move around, to figure out. You don't, though. You stay. You take deep breaths. You choose to do nothing, and things start to change. Not right away, not in a big way. Slowly, though, thoughts move slowly. The breath gets deeper, the feelings calm down, and something opens up under it all. This understanding isn't just an idea. It doesn't come in complete words. It gets to space. It shows up as not being confused, the lack of noise, not because you shut down something, but because everything lost its speed. That is the power of not reacting. It doesn't force change. Instead, it lets the truth come out. And what you find out might not be what you thought it would be. It could be a quiet sadness, a sweet memory. There is a deeper understanding that doesn't need to be said. It could also be nothing, just quiet, just being there. And even that, even more so that, is clear. It's also good to be humble, to let the mud settle. This is because the ego needs solutions quickly. It wants people to answer their emotional puzzles all at once. However, healing doesn't follow time limits. Truth doesn't just appear. And the most profound ideas often come up after the question has been no longer asked. The mind might tell you, you should do something, but the water that is still knows better. It tells you to stay here, not because it's useful, but because it's the right thing to do. You're not in a hurry to become a better person. You've been still long enough to see that you never needed to chase the self in the first place. When there is no noise, this kind of clarity changes your life not by what it adds, but by what it shows you. You get a better sense of how things are connected. Patterns stand out more, wants more clearly. You stop wanting to be sure and start trusting present. You no longer need closure. Instead, you find peace in being open. The most surprising thing about clarity is that it doesn't feel like power. It has the feeling of space, as if nothing is wrong, like you can breathe again. Not because all of your questions were solved, but because they no longer made your chest tight. This is how the dirty water gets better, by not moving, by being patient, by being able to stay unclear for as long as it takes. And with that approval, getting clear is no longer the goal. It comes naturally. One effect of letting go. Try this the next time you feel cloudy. Don't fix. Do not answer. Do not stir. Take a seat. Take deep breaths. Let your thoughts go around. Allow your feelings to swirl. Don't touch them, though. Don't talk about them. Do not call them a failure. Keep the glass still. Wait for the mud to settle down. What comes next won't be forced truth either. It will be your own silence that you remember. Once the mud starts to settle and you've tasted the rare clarity that only stillness can give you, a new task quietly comes up. The mind sees the peace and wants to copy it right away. Go after it. Take responsibility for it. Make it a big deal for yourself. It worked. A sign that you've finally made it. But something gets tighter again. The silence is broken not by pain, but by desire. Through work, not fear. You start to work for things that already belong to you, and the inner calm takes on another part without you even realizing it. One more goal to reach. Put on another mask. This is what happens when you try to be spiritual. The audition is now over. We'll go there next. There is a light pressure that builds up around the habit of being self-aware. The first goal is to feel better, to feel less pain, to get peace. The mind then starts to measure. By comparing, putting on, the process turns into a show. You meditate not just to sit, but to become a calm person. You think about things not just to understand them, but to be more spiritual. Yes, for some, but for yourself, it's more dangerous. A quiet show for the critical voice inside who is never happy. This takes place since the ego is smart. When material gains are no longer enough to feed it, it changes. It starts to eat inner ones. It talks about waking, being present and peace, but it still wants to be unique. It wants to learn more, not because it cares about the truth, but because it wants to be better. It does not matter if you are free. It doesn't matter if you look like someone who is. All of a sudden, peace is something you deserve, something to work for. You could get something that you don't have yet if you keep working hard. You're after calm, like a job. The way you meditate is like a test. Your success is like a resume that you wear. However, mental peace can't be done. It's not possible to do it for yourself or for other people. It's not something you can get by having good posture, the right music, or the cleanest practice. You won't find it when you finish your next thought. Once you stop trying to look calm and just accept yourself as you are, it will come. Buddhism tells us that trying to get something, even if it's a good thing, is still grabbing. And every try to hold on causes pain. Even mental holding on, especially grasping at heavenly things, as a cover for its true nature, wisdom. But resistance is really what it hides. Not wanting to be human. Resistance to being flawed. Don't give in to the mess of being living. You make things more difficult when you try to find inner peace. Not just in your body, but also in who you are. You think that being calm makes you good enough. Being still makes you real. And that you've failed when you feel confused, lost, or restless. But being human doesn't mean you've failed. There's only the need to hide it. You have the right to be hurt. Do not be afraid to lose your balance. You can stay on the path without having to show that you belong there. You don't have to try out for the silence inside you. Spiritual practice that is real is not impressive, it's not exciting, it's not noisy, not remarkable, not seen from the outside. It shows in the way you breathe when you're having a tough talk, how you wait before you act, how to forgive yourself when you can't stop thinking about it. And you can never earn that kind of peace, since it was never kept from them. It was only being put off because you thought you didn't deserve it yet, that you didn't work tough enough, that you didn't have enough spirituality. But here's the truth. Peace is not a gift. It's a place to rest, one that you can always use when you stop running. The ego also tells lies about being ready for peace. To feel calm, you don't have to be good. You can be free without being tied down. You don't have to be a certain type of person. All you have to do is stop acting. When you do that, everything inside changes. You stop trying to look smart and start letting yourself be lost. Stop hiding how you feel and start letting them come out. You stop trying to control your thoughts and start just being aware of them. You don't have to give up on the road. It means you don't wear shoes, not in costume, not using props. You don't need to take steps to look beautiful. It means you should stop trying to do it right, since that's just ego. the necessity to carry out the right kind of healing, the need to remain true to the script. But healing doesn't always go as planned. It's a mess, not even. Being honest. It can also look like silence at times. Sometimes it looks like it's going to fall apart. When things feel good, though, they don't always lead to peace. It's what happens when you don't lie. When you stop changing your experience to fit your needs. When you stop seeing yourself as something that needs to be fixed. Once you stop trying to be what you think a happy person should be, you can get back to being yourself. In Buddhist language, this is called not striving. It doesn't mean not caring. If you act like this, it means you don't lack anything. You don't do what you do out of shame. You are not disciplined because you are afraid. It comes from caring, from being there, from going back, not advancing. And things get easier when you stop trying so hard. That shoulder, your jaw, your timetable. You don't rush your feelings out the door. You don't have to clean your thoughts to make them shine. You just sit. You take deep breaths. You believe that just being here is enough. Since it is, even if you can't breathe well, even when your mind is very loud, even when your body is all over the place, you're good enough. Not because you deserve peace, but because peace can come to you anytime. It's what's left after the grabbing stops. Take a break if you feel like you're not doing enough. Take a break if you think peace is still a long way off. Take a break if you think you're failing because you're not always cool. Ask yourself, am I making peace or am I resting in it? During that pause, put an end to the test. Take the mask off. Give up the job. Don't think about how you should sit. Just sit the way you are and let the truth meet you there. And when you stop trying to impress yourself to find inner peace, when you stop the show and just sit with yourself without having to prove anything, a quiet truth comes to the surface. Something more than just calm. There is something greater than shame. Being aware that you're still holding on, not just to feelings or desires, but also to identities. You have versions of yourself that you made to stay alive, be liked, and fit in. Versions that used to be useful, but now just keep you small. It's time to let them die now that you're not acting. We'll go there next. We all have personalities that we don't even know we have. Stories, fears, praise and pain were used to make up roles. They start to form early. The good kid, the achiever, the strong one, making peace, the rebel who thinks too much. Take care of them. These roles used to keep us safe. They were useful to us. They kept us safe and let us know they saw us. But over time, they turn into jails. You start to think that the outfit is you and forget that you put it on. But Buddhism teaches that the self, or what you call me, is not a fixed thing. It won't last forever. There's no reason to do it. It is a group of shapes, making moves, files attached. Ego is more than just pride or ego. Every part of you thinks it needs to hold a shape to stay alive. And the thought of giving up these shapes makes me feel like I'm going to die. But that death is holy, because freedom takes the place of an old identity when it dies. The graveyard of the self is not a loss. It's a park. Each character you create breaks down into dirt. It helps the ground of understanding grow. It makes room for something softer to grow. Death of the ego is not violent. It's not exciting. Not turning down yourself is not the point. It's about letting go of the old version of yourself. It's the gentle loss of an extra layer that's getting too tight. A quiet funeral for a name that doesn't work anymore, and this letting go isn't in your head. The body feels it. It's the weight that goes away when you stop acting strong. Taking a deep breath out when you no longer try to be the best person in the room. The tears that come out when you think you don't have to be the one who always keeps things together. Ego death can be done slowly during meditation. You sit down, you take deep breaths. You also let yourself wonder, who am I when I let go of roles? When I don't need to be seen a certain way, who am I? Who am I when my thoughts don't tell me who I am? The answer doesn't seem important at first. There is no rush of personality to fill the space. It feels like nothing is there. But stay with the lack of anything, because it's not the lack of self that matters, it's the truth that matters. The nameable self is never the whole story. The self that goes away is not who you are, it's just a shell. And when the bottle breaks, awareness spreads to everything. You stop responding based on a fixed idea of who you are. You stop living from, I am this, or I am not that. You stop defending a version of yourself you made up years ago to get through middle school or win your parents' love when they were busy. You let it die. What's left isn't a clean slate either. It's room, soft, airy space to breathe, where being there is the only thing that defines you. Names don't matter there, only here does. This kind of death is healing because it doesn't hurt. It frees people. It makes the masks fall off, letting the skin below breathe. And yes, some of these people will try to come back. They'll say, "Who are you without me?" and whisper, "You need me." You don't have to answer, though. Just take a deep breath. Allow them to talk. Let them go away. Allow them to fall. Kill them. It will also feel odd at first, not having to be the helpful one or introducing yourself by your wounds, not to bend into the shape of what someone else wants. But over time, that strangeness turns into comfort. You don't have to give everyone your true name. To be free, you don't need to be understood. A lot of what you've called personality is really just patterns. Most of what you've said to defend who you are is just things you've said before. When you stop doing it again, the trend is over. The self that was made from it falls apart, and there is still something truer and quieter. That's why Buddhists bow down to change. Not because it's easy to change, but because holding on hurts. You get stuck when you stick to a set idea of who you are. You break when life doesn't go the way you thought it would. Not because life is mean, but because you wouldn't change. The real self doesn't break, though, since it doesn't stick. Looks around. It changes. It is still and quiet. It trusts the letting go. And your whole relationship with pain changes when you live from that place. You don't say, "This shouldn't be happening to me," because there is no longer a me that it can happen to. You're in pain, but you don't give up and let it kill you. You're happy, but you don't get attached. You're like water. You flow through life, full and free. How then do you practice ego death without using force? You start by figuring out what makes you not want to change, where you practice old parts over and over, where you feel uncomfortable with the thought of being seen differently. Then you get softer. You do not attack the name. Instead, you thank it. You kept me safe once, you say. You let it fall, but I don't need you now. It's fine to leave it alone. There's no need to make a better one. You just trust that being there is enough when the room opens up. You may discover a peace you've never felt before in that place. Peace that doesn't depend on what kind of person you are. A peace that accepts all feelings, all quiet, all breaths, even if you don't name them, because there is no longer a self that needs a name. You are not unfinished. You are growing. You're not undeserving. You're not clear. No, you're not lost. You're just not stuck on a map that someone who didn't know you well drew. Let it go. Bring back your old self to the earth. As the show ends, let it go quiet. Let the mask fall away in silence, and make your home in the place that's left. You're left in a strange and unfamiliar place when the old identities fall away, when the parts fall apart, and when the stories stop. Not lost or broken, but completely open. The mind does what it always does when things are quiet, when it is open. It starts to ask concerns. Why am I here? Why are we doing this? What should I do now that I'm not the same person I used to be? Like a hand reaching for a wall in the dark, it reaches for something. The catch is that there might not be a wall. There may not be a single right answer. It could be okay, though. That might be peace. That's where we are going now. There is a lot of quiet pain that lies beneath the search for meaning. There's no scream, it makes a hum. There is a steady tension in the chest and behind the eyes that tells you to make this count. Show what you're worth. Figure out your mission. Make sense of it. We are taught from a young age that everything in life must have a purpose, that even pain has a greater purpose, and that every moment must fit neatly into a story. But Buddhism gives people a different way to live, one that isn't hopeless, but more open. The way to let go. The mind wants meaning the same way it wants to feel safe. Setting up structures, labels, and timelines is what it does. You have to feel everything and ask yourself what it's all for. What does your sadness tell you about how you've grown? What do you need to learn from this mistake? Why are you going through this pain? It gets scared if it can't find an answer. It says that the moment is a loss. You're lost, it says. But this fear comes from one idea, that life needs to have meaning for it to be worth living. Say that view turns out to be false. A bit pessimistic, but not wrong. Wrong in a way that frees you. Since there isn't a big story to follow or a cosmic account to settle, you are free to live. Completely, a little, for real. You can feel things without having to figure out what they mean. You can move, but it doesn't have to be growth. You can rest, but not as a way to get better. Rest as life itself. The need to give everything meaning can become a cage in and of itself. Each feeling is turned into a message. Every moment of silence is turned into a chance to grow. Everything we do is weighed down by what we expect. The normal is turned down. The quiet isn't heard. You turn into a project again, but this time it's a spiritual one. But peace doesn't need a reason to exist. It needs room, space to exist without having to explain itself, like the sky, like a rock, like air. These things don't mean anything. They don't want to change into someone else. They are not important because of what they do. They are what they are. And just by being, they show a truth that goes beyond any story. Just being is enough. Not being in search of meaning doesn't make you empty. You are free. You stop asking the wind what it wants to teach you and just feel it. When you hear your own heartbeat, you no longer wonder if it means you're making progress. You can laugh without having to think about how it helps you heal. You suffer without it having to be very bad. You begin to see the holy in the ordinary. There is no apathy here. This is being close. Being so in touch with life that you don't need to explain it anymore. It's what Zen calls suchness, or the fact that something exists. The pure, unprocessed moment before the mind gives it a name. A tree is not a figure of speech. A cry doesn't teach you anything. Taking a breath is not the same as taking a step. All of them are whole on their own. It's not the lack of value that makes pointlessness peaceful. It's the lack of pressure. It's what happens when you understand that you don't have to work hard to stay alive. You are allowed to be. It doesn't matter if your life doesn't change anything, even if no one is moved by your story, no matter if no one gets what you're going through. It's enough that you're here. Letting go of the need for meaning also makes you more accepting of time. You stop trying to be productive every day and don't judge your worth by how much you get done. You need to stop breaking your life up into parts that all end happily. You finally get to the only real moment when you do this. This changes the way you feel pain, not by getting rid of it, but by taking away the need to make it deep. It's okay to grieve without calling it change. It's okay to be confused. You don't have to call it clarity in the making. There's no need to change the way you see pain to see it as growth. And when you're honest, you start to heal. Since the soul doesn't need to be explained, it needs to be there. Someone needs to stay, to take a breath with it, to watch it without judging or planning anything. It gets easier to deal with pain when you stop needing it to be useful. It stops doing its job. It changes from a puzzle to be solved to a storm to be watched pass. You'll also feel less joyful when you stop doing things that have value. It becomes less heavy. You laugh because it makes you feel good, not because you're better. You smile because something is pretty, not because it means you're making progress. You enjoy the way food tastes, music sounds, and the feel of the wind, not because they add to your story, but just because they are. When you let go of the need to matter, this is what you feel free of. You become kinder. You're not leaving because you've thought out life, but because you don't need to. You stop trying to change people. Stop making every talk a big step forward. You didn't say anything when there was quiet. You let love be love. And the fear starts to go away. The worry that your life doesn't matter enough, that you'll miss out on your chance, that you'll never find your purpose. When you realize you have nothing to prove, those fears go away. The fact that there is no final grade card at the end, that the point of life is not to have meaning, but to live it. You're not a book that's not finished. You are not a story that needs a happy ending. You're not a lesson that needs to be learned. You're a time. Breathe. A flash of awareness in a sky that goes on forever. That's more than enough. Let go. Do not feel like you have to explain yourself. Give up trying to make every step mean something. Let go of the need to give your pain a reason. Check out what happens when you do nothing. That's the peace of missing the point. That's the freedom of not having anything to show. You start to see the moment for what it is when you stop trying to give everything meaning or making life into a test or a puzzle that you need to solve. You let go of your big goal and finally feel the breeze, everyday things, the air, but something small can still pull you back. How you feel, somehow. A storm that comes in out of the blue. All of a sudden, it looks like you've lost your peace again. Peace may not have been lost, though. It's possible that you thought the sky was the weather. We'll go there next. Most people treat their emotions like things that don't change. A quick feeling of sadness turns into, something is wrong with me. An angry flash turns into, I'm failing again. A long feeling of emptiness turns into, I've lost myself. We don't just feel emotions, they shape who we are. When we do, we carry their weight as if they make us who we are. Buddhism teaches something more gentle, though, something more real. Moods are not who you are. In your mind, they're just weather moving through the scenery. This doesn't mean that your feelings aren't real. It means they're not fixed, not yet. Not a sign of a broken self. The storm doesn't hurt the sky. It goes through it, does not leave a scar. In the same way, being sad doesn't break your heart. Fear doesn't make you less valuable. Anger doesn't make you lose your focus. They come to see, they move, they leave. From this point of view, everything changes. Because you stop fighting your feelings when you see them as weather. When things change, you stop being scared. Stop making a bad morning into a bad person. You start to see what's going on without falling into it. The first step is to observe, taking note of when a feeling comes up, not as truth, but as experience. The person said, sadness is here. They felt tension in their chest and heavy eyes. There was no story. Don't judge. Fixing is not needed. Not much more than a gentle thank you, the same as seeing a cloud form in the distance. It's not your job to name the cloud or guess how long it will stay. You don't change anything about it. This isn't cold distance. There is closeness, but no union. You're not avoiding the feeling. You're just holding it without giving in to it. You let it come up, move, and go. You breathe with it if it lasts longer than you thought it would. You don't try to squeeze it out. You make room for it. The mind often wants things to be solved quickly. It tries to give the feeling a reason, a meaning, or a way out. Most feelings don't need to be fixed, though. They need to be seen. They need space to live without being pushed around. When you make that space, feelings lessen on their own. It gets cooler. The fog goes away, not because you pushed it, but because you stopped making it feel scared. Treating feelings like weather is another way to build trust. You understand that emotions change over time. Even the worst anxiety lessens over time. Even the greatest loneliness changes over time. Like nature, the inner world has a beat, and you feel less afraid of that beat the more you notice it. You know that the sun is still there, even when it rains. It's just hidden by clouds. Peace is the same way. You are the same way. Better yet, this change will keep you from rejecting yourself. When you think your feelings make you who you are, you start to judge yourself based on the weather. A quiet week makes you smart. When you're stressed, you feel broken. But this is just a trick. That's not the same thing as the weather. The weather is not the earth either. You are not your short-term problems. You are what keeps them together. This knowledge will protect you. When the mood gets bad and the wind picks up, you turn inward, not to get away, but to stay put. You take deep breaths. You look. You remember that the way you feel is not proof that you failed. It shows that you're still living. Plus, some weather is tougher to sit through. Like shame, it seems like it will never end. It does, though. It always does. It's just a thick fog. It doesn't tell the truth. It speaks of memories. You have nothing to say against it. Don't name it, though. Saying shame is here instead of I am ashamed will save you. You can also be free in your relationships, because when you stop identifying with your feelings, you stop blaming other people for them. You're sad, but you don't blame others. You're angry, but you don't act out. You start to tell yourself, I feel this and I know it will go away. This kind of understanding is a gift to you and everyone you meet. Stop being so emotional with your feelings too. You should no longer be shocked by how normal you are. You need to stop calling every change a moral crisis. You think it will rain. You're aware of things like an umbrella. You know that getting rid of the pain doesn't have to be done. People should honor it. When happiness comes, you hold it lightly too. It's not because you don't trust it, but because you know it's how things work. Happiness doesn't mean you've arrived. It's just a breeze, a good one, but not the last one. The truth is that controlling your mood won't bring you peace. It happens when you don't let your mood affect how much you're worth. There is peace where the clouds meet. This is the part of you that sees without holding on or fighting. The part that can stand in the rain without complaining. That can be still and not think of it as growth. That can really feel things without making those feelings their identity. Yes, this is emotional growth. This is not emotional control. This is emotional freedom, the ability to feel without being afraid, the freedom to stay soft even when it gets dark outside, being able to wait without having to guess what will happen next. Take a moment the next time something is raised. Kindly name it. This is grief. This is fear. Or this is sadness. Then take a deep breath. Do not follow it. Do not fight it. Let it go away like a cloud. Let it rain on you. Let it move around like the wind. Stay where you are, not changed, not touched, present. You are not your sadness, that's why. You're not your happiness. You're not your focus or your mess. You're the sky, and nothing makes the sky bad. More quietly, you start to notice something else once you stop letting your feelings name you and start seeing them as weather. Even though the sky is changing and there are storms and emotional clouds, there is calm. Not silence that calls for nothingness, but presence without making a fuss. Something is waiting for you in that silence. It's not a better copy, not a version that has been fixed. Just the honest truth about who you are right now. Not to be judged, not going to get better, just soar. The mind doesn't like this way of seeing, though. It wants to say something, a label, change, fix. Let's look in a different kind of mirror now, someone who doesn't answer. We'll go there next. When you are in deep awareness, there is a moment when you understand how much of your suffering doesn't come from what you experience, but from what you say about it. When you feel pain, your mind says, that shouldn't be there. When you're tired, it tells you you're being lazy. When you take a break, it tells you you're falling behind. The feeling itself is easy, The thoughts that go with it make it loud. Most people never really sit with something. As they sit, their experience is limited, interpreted, told, and skewed. They never use a mirror that is still. Opinions and expectations make it crack and fog up. It responds, not reflects. The self that looks into it gets confused, worn out, and twisted in return. There is another mirror, though, one that thinks without judging, one that no one has an opinion about, one who sees but doesn't say what they see. This is the highest form of awareness, being present in a way that doesn't change you, but helps you stop messing with what is already there. This is what Buddhists teach. When you sit with what is, you let go of the need to name every moment all the time. In this case, it means to look at yourself like a lake looks at the moon, in peace, of course, without having to own or grab what it sees. You're sad, but not to name it or fix it. You're just fully aware of it. Feel happy not to hold on to or claim it, but to watch it go by like light on the wall. It's not often that you see things like this, because we've learned that being aware means doing something, that to pay attention means to think about it, that to see is to decide. This, however, is not knowledge. It is performance. Because of this, life is full of quiet war. Always check the size. Try to be more present, calm, and perfect all the time. Still, making people aware ends the war. It does nothing but watch the mind spin. The old voice inside says, "You should be better than this," and it lets it fade away like a radio signal going out. It sees the body hold its stiffness and decides not to say that it has failed. It doesn't give instructions to the self, it just breathes with it. Take a deep breath. This isn't about getting rid of thoughts, it's about not being controlled by it anymore. You have the thought, you're falling behind, but you don't do anything about it. Smoke-like. You don't fight it. You don't follow it either. You don't say anything as you look into the mirror. You don't ask for help. You don't ask for reason. You sit with the pain of being seen for who you are. And while they are seeing, something strange happens. You ease up. Not because you think you're good enough, but because no one is fighting anymore. The moment doesn't have to be important. There's no need for the self to be impressive. You don't have to take deep breaths. You can do anything. There is room for everything. Still, being aware doesn't fix. It doesn't lead. It doesn't give any advice. It doesn't move. Like a rock next to a storm. Like a light in a room with no sound. And from this spot, understanding starts to rise. Not as thought, but as silence. Not as knowledge, but as comfort. You become aware of how hard you've been working to change yourself. You finally stop. There is no better way to rest than this. Not in the body, not for feelings. I mean spiritual. The soul finally stops acting. The smile on the face finally goes away. The breath stops trying to look calm again. You sit down. You are real. You didn't change anything about the moment. There's nothing to take care of here. There's no story to run. There is no version of yourself to show. You're not trying to pay more attention. You don't want to be at peace. You're not trying to keep up a certain level of awareness. You just got here, with yourself, not decorated in any way. And to be honest, this way of being is weird at first, because comments make you feel like you're in charge. It's safe to have labels on things. Even criticism can feel like an old parent you've always been trying to please. But when you learn to sit still without making any comments, you begin to feel your own presence in a way that has never been changed. You meet the part of yourself that doesn't need to be changed, the person who isn't a project, the self that just is. You start to see your flaws and don't say anything, not because you agree with them, but since you're no longer fighting with facts. Imperfections are no longer a problem for you. You can see how tired you are. You can see your desire. You can see your fear. You don't add anything either. You don't take anything away. You stay. Everything changes when you stay. Not because of work, but because of being seen. The body starts to relax. The breath gets deeper, not because of practice, but because it is not being watched. The mind slows down, not because of control, but because it is free. The self, the real self, starts to show itself, in peace, not by force, without any stress, like a light next to a door. This is not a place to go. You can't reach it. Remember that. There is already a still mirror here. You were just in front of one that was bigger. So how do you put this into practice? You sit down, you take deep breaths, you look, and when the remark comes up, which it always does, you notice it like a leaf in water. You don't grab it. You don't make fun of it. You didn't do anything about it. You look in the mirror again, but it doesn't answer. You just look at your face and don't decide what to do. You think about the past without writing a story about it. You feel the present without comparing it to the person you think you should be. Love grows in that place, not love based on what you do, but love based on being there. A kindness that doesn't want you to change. A kind of care that doesn't punish you for being human. This is the mirror that makes you better. Not because it makes you better, but because it proves what you already knew. You were never the noise. You were the one who saw. Finally, facing an image that doesn't talk back, when you start to see yourself without changing, fixing, or judging, you are faced with something surprisingly hard to handle. You have nothing to do, not to turn into, and for a mind that was raised on goals, on showing things, and on personal growth as a way to stay alive, that emptiness doesn't feel like peace at first. It's like losing something. Because for a long time, the goal of improving has been what kept people going. But Buddhism gives a greater permission that most people don't get. A sign that you can stop. But don't stop growing. Instead, stop following. Not only to rest from work, but also from becoming itself. We'll go there next. One word used in Buddhist thought to describe the desire to become is bhavatanha. It's one of the three main desires that cause pain. But bhavatanha doesn't hide like the desire for happiness or the desire to avoid pain, because it doesn't look like pain. It looks like a goal. It looks good to get better. It looks like getting better at yourself. There is a quiet belief, though, that I am not enough as I am, not yet, and I will only be at peace when I finally change into the person I'm meant to be. With this attitude, life is like running on a treadmill. Every new idea, piece of work, or change is just one more step toward a changing finish line. You don't meditate to be in the present moment. You do it to become more aware. You don't rest to get better. You rest to be more effective tomorrow. Healing is even taken over. People don't grieve to let go. They grieve to get better. The project to be your future self pulls everything together. Yet another missed moment of the now, the only moment that ever is. What if you could get off the machine, though? Not because you got there, but because there isn't a destination, because your stress comes from the idea that you need to change into someone else. For the part of you that always wants more is the part that never feels whole. Giving up doesn't mean dropping the project for the future self. It means getting up, seeing that every time you put off peace for a better time, you teach your nervous system that the present moment is never enough. And peace becomes less real the longer you wait for it. There is something just past the next goal, escape, or milestone. This doesn't mean that growth is bad. It's coming back to being present. You can still learn, continue to grow, still change, but not with the stress. Instead of the quiet violence of not yet, you stop trying to change yourself into someone that other people will like. You sit down with the person who is already here. Because being obsessed with becoming is a trap that never stops. You want to be calmer today. You plan to be more responsible tomorrow, then smarter, then love more. After that, more whole. But it all comes down to the same belief. I can't rest yet. I haven't earned it. But you can't earn peace. Peace is thought of. Bhava Tanha tells you to keep going until you're ready to take a break. The Dharma, on the other hand, says that your worth has never changed, that the person who has been watching you grow has never needed anything else, that you are already fully aware of what you are doing. Getting rid of the need to become changes everything. You no longer ask yourself, how can I make today better, when you wake up? You should ask, can I meet myself where I am? You stop judging each moment by how useful it is. You just let the breath happen. You let your sadness show. You don't use your joy as a sign of growth when it goes up and down. Your ideal self becomes less clear to you. It's not that you've given up your beliefs, it's just that you no longer use the future to hurt the present. There is no need for you to dream about a past self who never questions, fears, or forgets. And when you don't have any dream, you find something real. You get to know yourself, not the better version, not the smarter one, just the person who has been struggling all along, the one that needs the most work, the person who has always been here. That self doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to rest. It's not the kind of rest you save for the weekend or a trip. That is, the kind of rest that tells you, you can stop now, and doesn't need an explanation. That doesn't show how productive you are. That doesn't ask what will happen next. In a world that values moving forward, this is very different. That shows who you are by your goals. That means the best you will always be later. But praise doesn't matter to the Dharma. It wants freedom. And you're truly free when you don't need to look to the future to make sense of the present. When you let go of the need to become, everything feels lighter, even spiritual practice. You don't meditate to change, you do it to sit. That's not why you walk, to be more aware. You walk to feel your feet. Breathe not to get somewhere, but because it's here. Don't give up on peace. Instead, let it come to you naturally when you stop trying to find it. This is the heart of non-striving. If it does, it's not the peace of having done something well, it's the peace of being there. The peace that says, I don't need anything else. Not right now, not in this body, not in this life. That might be the hardest thing to accept. To be free, you don't have to change into someone else. That the chase itself is what keeps the door shut. Giving up is not a last option. It's the only way to get through this. You can still pick something. Keep doing what you believe in. Be careful when you show up. You do it from a place of rest, not from being restless. When you do it, you're not hungry, you're full. You do it in the quiet, knowing that you are not a mistake that needs to be fixed. It's a force that wants to be met. If your mind tries to argue, it will tell you of what you need to work on, your flaws and your goals. Just breathe. You say, "Thanks for your help," and then you go back to the place that doesn't need to change. Nobody should feel bad about ending your journey on a quiet note, because you were enough, even if nothing gets better. Now, here it is. And when you finally give up on the project of becoming, when you stop using your future self as a way to rest, a quiet starts to settle inside you. But one habit stays with them even when it's quiet. A voice that does not speak out of desire but out of correction. A voice that tells you to change, not because you're not good enough, but because you should know better. This is the reviewer, the screen, the part of the mind that thinks knowledge is only useful when it cuts. It's time to change how you hold that blade now, because being clear doesn't have to mean being mean. It's not necessary for correction to feel like a sentence. Being wise can be both sharp and soft. We'll go there next. It is important to have discipline and focus, but how you use them affects whether they help you grow or hurt you. A lot of people mix up insight and self-judgment. They think that being tough on yourself is a sign of wisdom. It is wrong to correct someone. Finding a mistake is like making fun of the part of you that got lost. But Buddhism shows a different way. Someone who is aware cuts through chaos, not with anger, but with care and precision. A path where the wise sword is wrapped in silk. The idea behind this soft sword is that inner discipline doesn't have to be violent in order to work. You don't have to beat yourself up when you tell the truth. It's possible to point out a trait without having it yourself. You don't have to hate yourself if you change your mind. The mind often thinks that you won't grow if it doesn't judge you, that you'll do the same thing again if it doesn't tell you off. But this opinion is based on fear, not on facts. Being harsh doesn't make people more aware. It makes things tense, and stress makes it hard to see clearly. You shrink when you attack yourself. Your body gets tighter, your heart protects you, and shame covers up the lesson. Being gentle with yourself, on the other hand, keeps the mind open. There is no change in the nerve system, and people can handle the truth, no matter how sharp it is. You can see clearly again without having to shut down. To answer without falling down. Today, I did something out of fear, not "what's wrong with me" is a soft judgment. This response was caused by old pain, not "I'll never be better. I can make a different choice next time," not "I always mess things up." The language changes. It changes the energy inside you too. You don't just let everything go. To be soft is not to be passive, it is accurate. The soft sword only cuts what needs to be cut. It doesn't cut through the soul like a sword. It doesn't punish people for being flawed. It clears things up. It gets rid of fantasy. It removes habit from who you are. The spirit that holds it doesn't break at all during this process. This looks like stopping before reacting in real life. Not to hide how you feel, but to be curious about it. When you have a negative thought, you can say, "Ah, that old pattern," and not believe it, not giving in to it, But don't blame yourself for having it either. It means calling your pain by its name without giving it power. Being tough doesn't make you better. Being more clear makes you stronger. And being clear is nice. Soft, but not so soft that you avoid the truth. Soft enough that you can take in the truth without getting hurt. The Buddha used the word prajna to describe knowledge, which means a deep understanding. But karu, or kindness, always kept it in check. Wisdom can see. Compassion is real. They make up the soft sword when put together. Knowing what to do, that doesn't hurt. Your practice will break if you don't keep this balance. You know what you're doing wrong, but you never feel free. You can see your patterns, but you never feel whole. You walk the road, but you never think you're good enough, because at every step there is a judge instead of a friend. You become your own friend when you carry the soft sword, though. You don't try to hide the truth, but you also don't hurt yourself with it. You lead yourself like you're important. You give gentle feedback. You realign without being angry. This changes the way you deal with failing. You don't fall into blame. Instead, you lean into understanding. You study your mistakes instead of dwelling on them. You don't replay your worst times. Instead, you learn from them and move on. It also changes how you talk to other people, since you treat yourself the way you want to treat everyone else. You won't be able to tolerate other people if you punish your own mind for traveling. If you hide your own evil, you'll be able to judge everyone else's. You are safe when your inner sword is wrapped in silk, though, not because you can't see what's wrong, but because you can see without getting hurt. That's when you start to teach by doing. You show that being clear doesn't have to mean being mean. That direction doesn't need to be ruled over. Being strict can be a sign of love. And that influence is strongest when it's not too strong. This is not a method. It means a change in who you are. You no longer see yourself as something that needs to be fixed. Stop punishing people with the truth. You start to use the truth to heal. Not heat, but light. Like medicine instead of shame. And after living this way for a while, a new bond forms. You no longer are afraid of your own image. Stop running away from your own habits, because you know you will handle whatever comes your way with wisdom and kindness. So stop. The next time you feel like you're moving. Stop the next time you feel the pain of regret. When you talk to yourself in a way that makes you hold your breath, stop. During that break, grab the soft sword, not to cut, not to be quiet, to check, and in that seeing, to set free. When you stop cutting yourself with clarity, you understand something deeper about the mind's pain, which means it doesn't always scream. It loops sometimes. There are times when it hurts like friction instead of fire. It comes back, timeouts, plays again. Not because you want to be in pain, but because you think that going over it again will fix it, make sense of it, or heal it. It never does, though. It doesn't close anything, it just opens it again. What wants to heal keeps getting picked at. This is the harm that ruminating does in the background. From now on, don't scratch things that could already be better. We'll go there next. One very sneaky thing the mind does is ruminate. You might think about it, but you're not. The way it feels is like processing, but it's not. Thoughts of understanding seem to be nearby, but they never show up. What it does is keep you stuck in the same words, thoughts, and pictures. Over and over. It's destroying minds. Looping attention is what takes away your peace. It's not that you're doing it wrong. Your mind is looking at a wound to heal it. This isn't just a weird thing in Buddhist thought. As a form of pain, it sees it that way. Not idle, but moving. That is, not emotional, but behavioral. It's not just a mood to think about things. It's a deed. A choice made over and over, often without realizing it, to stay in touch with pain long after it has done its job. Like picking at a bug bite until it turns black. It would be like pressing on a bruise again, just to see if it hurts. When the mind ruminates, it thinks it's doing something good. It needs an answer. It wants to end. It wants to play back the moment or practice a better one. But none of that ever makes things better. The truth is that your pain doesn't need more care. It just needs some space. And there is no room until you stop feeding the loop. Because it acts like it's useful, ruminating is tiring. You believe that you are studying, figuring it out, finding out, but you're really just telling them again. You get deeper into the groove every time you think about the fight, the loss, the mistake, or the sorrow. It's like cutting the pain into stone. You remember it. The wound never heals because no one ever leaves it alone. Being mindful is the first thing that moves your hand away slowly, not by force, not when you deny it, but with being there. Something tells you you've touched this enough. The lesson has already been seen. You don't need to bleed again just to remember you were cut. Your brain and nerves don't know that you're just thinking when you dwell. It acts like it's real. My heart beats fast. The air gets shorter. The muscles get tight. You go through the same thing twice, 10 times, or 1,000 times. It hurts more to remember the event than to actually go through it. Soon enough, you'll no longer be healing, you'll be hurting. This is stopped by mindfulness, not by changing the topic, but by changing the relationship. It helps you figure out when the loop starts. It lets you know what it's like to go into the slide, feeling a little tight in your chest, the vision getting worse, the word that starts everything. Now is the time to say, I should have. Why did they? And what if? The point of entry. That's where you stop. You call it what it is, thinking, not as a person, but as something they do. You don't judge it. You shouldn't feel bad about coming back. Don't act like it's intelligence, though. Don't tell yourself that things will be different this time. You take a step back. You also breathe. Not by distracting, but by holding, you change people's attention. This time, you go back to feeling. The air, the feet, the noise in the room, how your hands feel, something real, anything up to date. You don't try to stop the thoughts. You should stop giving them food, and you do it again when they come back, which they will. Kindly. Be patient, not angry. It's not a bad thing to think about things, it's just a habit, a learned way to deal with pain, a mind that has never learned how to leave things unfinished. You can now teach it, though. You could say, we don't need to go there again. We've been down that road. Or, that memory doesn't hold peace. And the loop would slowly lose its power. The urge goes away. The scab starts to dry out. This doesn't mean forgetting either. It means not living again. To respect the wound by giving it time to heal is what it means. Because going through pain again and again won't help you heal. Letting go of the part of you that thinks pain is who you are is an important part of healing. The mind might argue. It could be telling you that you'll forget something important if you don't think about it. You won't, though. When you're not obsessed with something, you'll remember the truth better. You won't have to go through the pain again to remember the lesson. You'll remember the story even if you don't play the part. You don't have to think about what hurt you anymore. It's not that it didn't matter, it's that it has nothing more to teach. You don't have to force yourself to feel good in order to break the cycle. To refuse to open the wound up again is what it means. It means taking comfort in what is here. The air, the light, the sound, the time, the life that is still going on. And sometimes the loop comes back because you're tired, open to harm, not sure. It's all right. You deal with it without getting angry. You find your way back without getting scared. I see you, you say. But we're not going there today, they say, and you go back, over and over, until it feels normal to come back. Something changes over time. The mind calms down. It trusts you now, not because you shut it down. It knows you won't keep going back to it over and over again. It knows you'll see it, call it out, and back away. That's what makes them not pick. That's what makes the skin seal. That's what makes things calm. Not by writing the story over again, but by putting it away. Taking a step outside into the air, the present moment, and the part of your life that isn't stuck in a loop, but is still ready to be lived. Stopping the loop means taking your hand off the scab carefully and not opening up the wound just to feel like you're doing something. What's left is something quieter, but still real. It hurts still. Not harsh or loud, but there. Not trying to get your attention, but not ready to go either. At this point, most people again turn away. Try to get their attention. Do your best to move on. What if, instead of running away, you were kind and went toward it? Not to think about, but to talk. Not to question, but to pay attention. What would happen if you saw your pain not as a threat, but as a scared part of you that needs to be comforted? We'll go there next. There is a technique that comes from Buddhist mindfulness and is found in many types of contemplative healing. It's easy. A chair across from you comes to mind. You put your pain there, not the whole story, just the feeling, the fear, the pain, the shame, the hurt part of you. You talk to it. Not like a foe, not in the same way. However, like a kid who doesn't know how to ask for help. At first, this sounds weird, but it's not made up. It is closeness, the kind of love that most people never give someone else, because they don't face their pain with presence. Instead, they run away from it or attack it. Sometimes they hold it in until it comes out in strange ways, and other times they think about it so much that they can't breathe. But avoiding or obsessing over pain doesn't make it go away. Getting close to someone helps heal. The empty chair is a way to connect with someone. You just sit there. You take deep breaths. You can feel the painful knot in your heart. Not to be fixed, but to be heard. You tell it to take a seat. After that, you talk, kindly, slowly, like someone who wants to know more. You tell your pain things you've never told it before, like, I see you, I'm here now, or you don't need to protect me anymore. This way of talking isn't acting. There's no need to say the right things. It's about giving you what you never got when you were hurting. someone to listen, a nice person, a sound that doesn't move. You could ask your pain where it came from. You could ask it what it's scared of. You could ask it what it wants. You ask not because you want a clear answer, but because it builds trust. For now, it means you're not trying to delete it. You're ready to go with it. And sometimes the pain speaks up, not in words, but in how it feels, being tight, tears. Remember, sometimes all that's needed is to be seen, to be made welcome, to get out of the prison of silence. That's not what this is about, enjoying pain. It's about having the right light on it, like a teacher holding a kid who is scared, with power, willing to wait, with just the right amount of silence to let fear go away on its own. The chair doesn't work magic. It's a sign. The place where you stop seeing pain as an intruder and start seeing it as a guest, a lost part of you that has been crying alone in the dark. And something changes when you talk to it with kindness. The pain gets better, the body calms down. You start to get out of the loop you've been in for years, but not by force, but by being kind. This practice also shows us how mean we are to ourselves a lot of the time. Hearing the voice you use to talk about your pain makes it clear why it's been so hard to heal. That's not how you talk to a child. That's not how you'd talk to a friend. But because you're scared, to your own sorrow, you've been mean, demanding, not waiting. You can feel a different tone in the empty chair. I know you've been trying to help me stay alive, it says. You carried a burden I didn't know how to name. You don't have to carry it alone anymore, it says. This part of you in that chair starts to see that it's not the enemy. This is the part that learned how to hold itself up, to keep safe, because no one else knew how to hold it, to squeeze the wound tighter. Now that you're here, that part doesn't have to be by itself. It's fine as is. All you have to do is talk to it, take a seat with it, pay attention. Slowly, the feeling starts to fit in, not as identity, but as history. It stops being something that makes you who you are. It turns into something that shaped you and then was gone. This changes how you feel about everything in your life. You don't need to explain it anymore. You don't need to write it again. You don't have to teach them anything. You just hold it the way it is, with being there. You don't freak out when the pain comes back, which it will. You get the chair out again. Welcome back, you say. We should talk about it. And with that, the habit of fear changes into the practice of care. It's not easy to do this. It feels soft. It takes a while. It is holy, but it has a lot of power too. You stop being afraid of your pain once you know how to talk about it. You stop running away from your fear once you know how to face it. You can get out of being sad once you learn how to listen to it. You give yourself a safe place to be. That changes everything. So give it a shot. Not once, but slowly, over and over, when you're lost, when you have too much to do, when you think things are going to go too far. Take a seat. Put the chair down. Put your pain across from you. Talk. Because being quiet doesn't always help people heal. It starts with a line sometimes. Do something nice that you didn't know you could say. You start to notice something strange once you've sat across from your own pain, talked to it gently, watched it without blinking, and paid it the attention it never got. This was not the kind of success that the mind was hoping for. not an instant answer or understanding. That is, something lighter, a coming back. It's the kind of peace that comes from being ready to hold the wound without expecting anything in return. That's when it becomes clear. Change doesn't lead to peace. The first step is to remember, not the person you could become, but the person you were before everyone taught you how to forget. We'll go there next. There is a thought that runs through modern spirituality like an invisible wire, that you should work toward peace, that you should reach enlightenment, and that you should climb a ladder to heal yourself. There is a distance between us and them, even in the words we use, like higher self, spiritual goals, and awakening stages. Getting apart, a place you need to get to. But Buddhism has something else to offer, not a goal, but a comeback. Being wise is not a badge, it's not a prize for getting through the hardest parts of life. It's not a diploma you get after years of hard work. You can't get to it by perfecting your ideas or feeling everything perfectly. Just this, the moment you stop running away from yourself. When you no longer think that peace exists somewhere other than here, that you are enough as you are now, beneath the layers. It's not about adding on this road. It has to do with losing. Do not grow into something bigger. Instead, remember something calmer. You had peace when you were born. Not the peace of being quiet, but the peace of being there. Before the parts, before the stories, before someone told you what loss means, what you should fear, and what you should go after. That was all put on top. It didn't come from inside. So the real trip is going back, not to youth or ignorance, but to what it all means, to the part of you that existed before you became who you are now, before every event was judged by how well it met expectations. Before everyone told you you were broken, believe it. You don't need to make peace. You need to stop leaving yourself behind. Every time you try to fit in, every time you think a feeling has been there for too long, every time you act like everything is fine when it's not, that's the leaving behind. Peace is just outside that door. Don't think that life will stop asking of you. You still get bigger. You still deal with loss, pain, and change. What you do is different, though. Life is no longer seen as a set of tests. Stop seeing every problem as something you can get through. You stop looking for growth and start noticing what's already there. It's not the person who looks most spiritual that is the most spiritual in the room. The person who doesn't think they need to be. The one who doesn't care how they look and doesn't look for approval from the spiritual success scores that can't be seen. That's peace. It's not something you do, it's something you rest in. The irony is that the change is stronger the more you let go of success. It's not because you're working harder, but because you're not fight what is. From the inside out, you start to move, not by following steps or methods, but by what is true, the honest truth, the kind that your bones feel, the kind that doesn't need to be explained. There is no such thing as peace. It's not something you own. It's not a feeling. There's a sense of coming home, not a place, but a room inside, a place where you don't have to act, where you settle down with your heart. You can breathe there without having to act. You don't have to change who you are to sit where you are. In reality, waiting to get there is a big source of pain. The truth is that none of those times will ever come if you keep tying them to the future. you keep telling yourself, once I'm more grounded, I'll relax. Once I'm fully healed, I'll finally rest. Once I feel totally worthy, I'll stop proving myself. Getting things done doesn't bring peace. Giving up helps you find it. Giving up is not the same as surrendering. It means giving up. Right now, to the air, to the part of you that is already here, the person who is whole without being set, the real one who doesn't need more time, the one who only wants you to stay. That's the quiet lesson that all deep practice is trying to get across. Stay put. Not in every way. No, not in skill, just being there. When your mind tells you that you're not enough, stay with yourself. When your breath wants to run, hold on to it. When your heart hurts for no reason, stay with it. Wait long enough to understand what the silence means. It says that you were never far away. You got caught up in the thought that peace is somewhere else, so you don't need to go up anymore. You don't need to find any hidden things. There's no need to learn more than you did yesterday. Just go home. You don't need to defend the image of yourself that you bring home. Come home to the stillness of knowing that doesn't talk back. When you get home, you'll find someone there who never left, even when you did. You want to go home, not because it's a task, but because that's how you are, such as gravity, like being still, like the breath that you can't stop but still takes place. You'll notice something when you do that, when you really let yourself come back. You're not proud of yourself. You don't feel like you won. You feel okay. Okay, but it doesn't depend on anything. It's okay in a way that doesn't need praise. That's okay because it means I am already enough. What a deep sense of peace that is. Being at peace is not something you get, it's something you come home to. This helps you see all the places you've been taught to earn what you already have. As time goes on, you become more aware of how much of your inner life has been staged. And there's often something colder going on beneath the shows. In a courtroom, a place in your mind where you're always being judged. For a moment, the judge. The next one was the accused. Changing jobs all the time, never giving up, always making a case. And the most frustrating thing is that the decision never comes. Why? Because leaving the courtroom is the only way to find peace, not winning the case. We'll go there next. The mind is always getting better at turning knowledge into judgment. It looks at every feeling in turn. Every mistake is shown to be true. It's even important to protect rest. Did I do enough? Asks a voice in the background, which is sometimes loud and sometimes quiet. Did you make the right choice? Why did I feel that way? What are they going to say about me? Behind every question is the same stage, a trial where you are both the accused and the accused. This inner show isn't often seen directly. There's no sense of acting. It sounds like being responsible or trying to improve, but there's a constant feeling of dread underneath. You're never completely innocent. A part of you always wants to show that you're not as broken, lazy, selfish, emotional, or weak as you think you might be. All this trouble is worth is your peace. This pattern is linked to attachment in Buddhist beliefs, like wanting to be right or controlling how other people see you, and it grows in a mind that isn't calm. Peace, or upekkha, is not the same thing as not caring. Apathy is not it. It's the calm ability to watch without getting attached, to see clearly without making moral judgments about every event, to go with the flow of life without worrying about how valuable you are. Finding peace is like having an exit door in a trial, since it's not important whether you're guilty or not. The problem is that you have to make a choice all the time, and every time you do that, the trial starts over. You blame yourself for being too hard on yourself, then be harsh on yourself for not having high enough standards. Then ask yourself if you're trying to avoid being responsible. Then feel bad about thinking too much. It goes around and around. Before you can leave, you have to look at the judge. You stop and give the setting a name. You understand that you're not just feeling bad, you're being tested. You're remembering events, figuring out why they happened, defending your actions, and thinking how other people see you. After seeing the framework, you no longer try to win. Your argument is over. You stop getting ready for defense. This is the change, from judging to observing. Stop treating every feeling like a case. Your thoughts are just that, thoughts. Stop bringing yourself to court every time you feel weak, messy, tired, or just like a person. You understand that this test is only being asked for by a part of your mind that has forgotten how to relax. Realizing that thoughts are not rules is the first step toward non-attachment. A statement is not a feeling. The past is not a place where crimes happened. Even if the self does nothing bad, that doesn't mean it is whole. Letting go of this process makes me very scared. You do it to stay in control, but the truth is that there is no peace in the courtroom. The judge is still watching even if you win the case. It's never safe to be quiet. Another mistake is always there to be looked over. One more chance to break it down. One more thought to question. You could use mantras to try to shut the judge up, or make the case less harsh by giving reasons. But these are just new parts in the same play. Leaving is the only way to really be free, to no longer care about either job. I am not the one who has to prove, or I am not the one who has to decide. This is where serenity can help you. You start to think of how you're feeling as weather, not opinions, not the truth. It's just events passing by. In pain, you don't deny it, but you also don't put it on trial. When you slip, you don't feel bad about it. You don't have to be good to get rest. You just sit here with what's there, leaving it without a mark, giving it room to breathe. Something comes back in that silence, and it's not peace that comes from being right, a calm that doesn't depend on fixing what went wrong. The softness under the noise starts to get to you, the part of you that don't want to win and just want to be. Now is not the time to be silent. It's about getting whole, because you act from understanding instead of guilt when you're not at war with yourself, from kindness, not fear. Of course you are still responsible, but not in a sentence, as an option. You start to lead yourself with care instead of force. You think without using memory as a tool. You're not embarrassed to say sorry. You learn and grow without making every mistake a test. Last but not least, you rest. You no longer look over your shoulder while you wait for your next inner judgment. Every time you make a choice, you stop preparing. You no longer have to carry your past around with you as you go through life, because what was written down was never true. It was the play for the court. Now you don't need the script any longer. So the next time you feel ready to go to court, stop. Take note of the setting. Get off the stand. Put the hammer down. Let go of both the government and the defense. Leave, up in the air, taking a breath, into the present moment that only wants you to be there. This is the end of the trial, not when you make a statement, but without you being there. The stories that hurt, the silence that heals, the masks you no longer need, and the truths that were always there are all things you've just been through in your mind. You didn't try to find peace tonight. You went back to it. Don't fix. No showing off. Don't use projects about the future to wear you out. Take a quick breath. Just being there. Just the quiet to remember that you were never broken. Just hidden under the masks that other people taught you to wear. Every lesson was a step away from the courthouse, the storm, and the fake reflection. You let the mud dry out. You threw down the sword, stopping to pick at the cut. You were like a teacher when you heard my pain. There was no more becoming. There was only being. That's not a little thing. That's coming home. So, as you fall asleep, remember what you've learned. Not as ideas, but as guides. Let them fade into the background of your body, your breath, and who you are. There's nothing more to show, nothing to work for. There's nothing wrong. You're here. You're whole. You're at home. Post a comment below if these lessons helped you feel calm, at ease, or aware tonight. Share what spoke to your heart. Your voice is important. It's full of deep insights and gentle advice. If you want more movies like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Peace doesn't just show up once, it's a routine. Let's talk about it again. Good night, and may your silence last until tomorrow.